Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Firola.
All right, we need to share this out, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know who's going on right now, but let's get the info out. Let's get the links. Let's share them all. Guys, DC, if you didn't see, now in the descriptions, if you're on the YouTube or if you are on the Rockfin, there are links to the Rumble right now in the description. So in the Rockfin, there's a link to the Rumble. You can click it on and we'll give you to the page. And then we have that there. So we now have added the links in the description. So all the ways you can help support independent media, get our voices out there because we really need to get out there. Fam, I know we're not talking about it today. We have a lot to cover, right? We have this FTX hearing that went on in the House. And fam, I've already listened today a little bit in the Senate, and you can only imagine how I feel that Liz Warren is freaking, Liz Warren, pretty much with her, she is now the head person to go out there and crush cryptocurrencies, the way she framed cryptocurrencies. And this is what it's all about. This is what the stuff that Catherine Austin Fist talks about, fam, about they want to crush this whole market and get you eventually onto CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies. So that's what they want to do, is they want to come out with their own one. That's why this whole situation seemed planned. It seemed like it was scheduled, so they can say all these cryptos are bad. We need regulation. And what they're trying to say is they don't want you, pleb, to find any other means outside of the American monetary system in which you can gain assets or finance from, or have any other avenue to get away from the Fed and the Congress critters who are making these rules. So the Senate is going on right now. I think it ended. It was like 2 hours and change. The House was yesterday. We're going to break down a little bit of stuff in the House, fam. We got that going on. We got Bernie Sanders bending the knee as always. Hoo-ah! Because he is a cuck that we know about. And we also have a little bit stuff going on with these Twitter files, fam, because a lot of people are getting duped by them. But really, I know we're not doing it today, but the Brazil shit, fam. The Brazil shit is just wow. If you can see it moving in slow motion. And I think we need to start diving in a little bit more about who these people are, who these players are, and who they work for. We need to dig up a little bit about who Steve Bannon and his Jesuits are working for over here. There's a country that Steve Bannon never criticizes and stuff. So we'll get into that as we bring a little receipts to the table. Addy Ads will be back next Tuesday with me, fam, with Lynn Bernstein. I'm going to land in Florida on Tuesday morning. I'll be traveling, which I have to give you my holiday schedule, my request schedule, fam. We got some stuff coming up, but we are now, like I said, on Rumble, on Rockfin. A lot of work. The holiday season's here. Fam, you've changed your profile. I see you in a snow coat with snow behind you in commie heaven smiling. What's going on with that picture over there?
What do you mean what's going on with the picture?
Everybody's loving. Why the smile? Why the hardcore Colgate press teeth smile as you're in the snow? Because you don't like the cold. Everybody knows you're not a cold person.
I am a cold person. No, it was good. It was just nice out, fam. It was nice. It wasn't that cold.
Well,
yeah.
You look so happy to be where you're at in commie heaven. Fam is there. A cult priestess. Thank you so much. She's over on Rockfin. Guys, we only have 4 people there. Fam, let's share the Rockfin really quick. Rockfin is for premium members right now. Like I said, starting next month, we're going to be able to get set a special price. But if you have a few bucks and you can subscribe to Rockfin's premium membership, that's a great way to help the Convo Couch out. Fam, there's no advertising over there, so that's really cool, which is awesome. But yeah, a lot of great things going on. Of course, we're on Rumble right now, fam. 31 people watching. Let's share that up there as well. Fred Edwards, are you over in the Rumble chat? We need people to get over in the Rumble chat. Ronnie with 132. Rumble rants are a non-starter fun facts because she is in heaven. Rumble rants are a non-starter. Rumble rants are a non-starter? Oh, cause she is in heaven. Yeah, fam, you're in heaven. They're talking about you. Fam, I don't know if you know this. Morocco and France are playing live right now, and France is now up 1-0, I believe. So we have to see what's going on, but they're on the move. Mm-hmm. It's a tight game, France and Morocco. I don't know if France just scored again. I think they just scored again, fam. We might be in some serious trouble here. Morocco might be out of it before long. But, fam, let's get started on the fun stuff. You have to run off to work, so I might have to finish the show. I have a loaded,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, loaded FTX section. I've been speaking with all my peeps. A lot of stuff going on. I watched the majority of the Congress critters talk about on this situation. A lot of stuff to unpack. There's a lot of objectives by the United States empire. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are right when they say, hey, man, this is about getting us off any type of cryptocurrencies because they are a threat to the monetary system and getting on these CBDCs. But fam, let's start off with your boy, Bernie Sanders. And he is your boy because I ran away a lot quicker than Bernie than you did.
Yeah, but you ran to Tulsi, so
Well, I'm still happier that I ran to Tulsi over Bernie Sanders, but please, let's not split hairs over here. This is your tweet. Give us a little dive into, because yesterday, while we were all looking at everything else, there was a War Resolutions Act on the floor that was supposed to take place,
yeah.
a vote to suffocate the funding going to the Saudis to kill Houthis in Yemen. So please, bust right into it.
So, can you just go ahead and pull up the tweet thread?
Yep, I'm right here. You want
Okay,
me to
great.
go down
So,
or
no.
start there?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So, this was last night for me. I think it's hard to for you. Whatever. This was last night for all of us. And Bernie Sanders decided to withdraw his Yemen War Powers resolution. Now, remember, he was the one that was pushing this resolution for a long time. This was what he was known for. Bernie Sanders talking about what's going on in Yemen, the genocide, the famine. Children are the majority who are dying. This was why so many people loved Bernie, because he spoke out against the Saudi led war on the people of Yemen while nobody else was speaking about this. So this was a big deal. And he backtracked on this, okay? And he said he was going to continue working on an agreement with the Biden administration because the Biden administration opposes this. So he decided, well, we got to work with the Biden administration, so I'm going to do whatever. So if you just go down, his statement read, fam, do you want to read this one in your
Today,
Bernie
I
Sanders?
withdrew from consideration by the U.S. Senate my war powers resolution after the Biden administration agreed to continue working with my office on ending the war in Yemen. Sanders said.
So he said this, and he also added a couple of things to kind of make it seem like he's still going to be working on this. But he said his famous
Let
phrases.
me
There
be
you go,
clear.
fam.
Let me be clear. I got a little schmeggle in my throat. If we do not reach an agreement, I will, along with my colleagues, bring the resolution back for a vote in the near future and do everything possible to end this horrific conflict. How come we wouldn't force a vote right away, fam? Why? What the? You're going to sit there and tell me Sanders didn't force a vote? That we have time to wait to kick the can down the fucking road from years to this war going on? You know what I'm saying? And the fact that Biden came out was one of the first things that he said it was going to end. He didn't end it, fan. He amped it up. He gave them more money and weapons.
Right. So if you want to click on that, we can see his full statement. And I'm not, making this up in case some of his defenders are going to
Okay.
come up here.
Let me click on it because it's pretty big. Sorry,
Okay.
fam. Stop it. So Bernie Sanders, instead of forcing a vote, which is what we say, just, you know what? Listen, if you want results, force a vote. Make these people go on records for what they are standing by. Don't let them slide. But again, fam, it seems like he capitulated again to Joe Biden
Again. Yeah.
and more.
He has been doing nothing but capitulating. So this is what we read, right?
Yeah.
This is what he said. Again, like, I just wanted to show this because this is directly from his website. So
Yep.
that's exactly where it came from. Now, of course, RT covered this last night for us. It was a big story. I I was like, wow, I haven't talked about Bernie in a long time. And of course, it was like, wow, the senator
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. This is the guy that was really leading this whole thing. And it's like, for me, it's like, wow, like, I'm here right now, And I started out as a Sanders supporter, and I'm just like, I'm not even disappointed anymore, because I have removed myself from this like this progressive, area
Yeah.
of support for Sanders in any way. But it's just sad as to what he's become, just pretty much a tool of the Democratic establishment, a sheep herder, just the equivalent of the squad. I mean, the squad is following in his footsteps. And I think Ajamu Baraka said it really well here. He said, please don't ever claim that Bernie is a radical. Bruce Dixon got it right. He is nothing more than a sheepdog for Democrats along with the squad. And it's really sad. There's not going to be a vote on this Yemen War Powers resolution. This is cowardly. This is the time when you get to call Bernie Sanders, hands down, a coward,
A
because
cuck.
this is what he led with. This is one of the things he was known for foreign policy wise. And there's no way to defend him on this. And you're going to have people defending him
Well,
regardless. Oh,
fam.
but he's going to come back, and he knew he didn't have the votes. So he's just going to come back and do it later with
Yeah.
Biden. He
Yeah.
said he's going to still work on it. You guys are being so critical. He said he's going to work. I don't care what he says. I care what he does. And he hasn't done anything to advance this. And meanwhile, a famine is still going on. But yeah, Bernie Sanders has the audacity to support weapons to Ukraine, has the audacity to support weapons to these neo-Nazis. Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, this is, there's no, this is indefensible. Like, this is indefensible at this point. There's nothing to defend here.
I am the only congressman to even pursue this. Don't I get a little credit for being the only one? You're going to talk about the libertarians, but I didn't see Rand Paul come across with this resolution. It's funny because when it came to the Afghan situation, in which Rand Paul tried hardly to stop, Bernie Sanders wasn't a co-sponsor. When it came to the Republicans here in the Yemen situation, Rand Paul, or not one other Republican, was a co-sponsor. So it's like they choose to play their games. It's all kabuki theater at this fucking point now, fam. And I love this tweet, this point right here, because this is Dave DeCamp, right? Antiwar.com. And we'll pull up his article in 2 seconds. But fam, please go ahead and then we'll get to Jamu too as well.
I think you posted this, but Bernie Sanders caves into the White House pressure. There will be no vote on the Yemen War Powers resolution. What a coward. That's exactly what he is. He's a coward at this point, right?
He's a Jamu, yeah.
This is what Ajamu's agreed with. And I mean, I think there's nothing else to say. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a coward. Bernie Sanders is a good leader for the squad to follow at this point, because they're all voting in line. They're all pretty much just doing what the Democratic Party does, which is why we don't really talk about Bernie often, because it's kind of like a waste of time to repeat yourself. He says he's independent. He's independent on paper, but he's really just towing the same line that the Democratic establishment does. I mean, what's the difference between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden at this point, other than, Joe Biden's creepy? Like other than that, like in terms of what he does with his vote, he keeps doing whatever the Biden administration wants him to do. He'd rather work with the Biden administration than actually oppose it. And that's not what he was there for. He was supposed to be the opposition to the status quo. When he talked about a revolution, when he talked about all these things, this is all a lie. And this is why so many of us, you could say we've become cynical, but I don't think it's cynicism. I think it's just understanding the reality of where we're at here. I think it's really stupid and naive to think you can still change something so rotten and corrupt. It's just impossible at this point. It's got to go.
Let me say this much. And fam, did you get the link to our guest? So you can come on a little bit. He'll be on in about 12, 13 minutes, guys. Nick, MMA Socialist. You saw him here on the Convo Couch. First election night was one of his first appearances before RBN or Fred Hampton left. This was even a thing. We brought that man on, and he's going to be here with us today to talk some more stuff, some more guff about what's going on with Twitter. And you're right, fam. I mean, this is just, at this point, you know what he went on the tweet about today? And he had to stay on schedule because Barack Obama tweeted it. And then Bernie Sanders tweeted it. They went back talking about Sandy Hook, right? That's what they were tweeting today. Today, Obama's biggest mistake, he said, ever was allowing Sandy Hook to happen and not finding a way. He didn't say finding a way to take away our guns, but he kind of said it was one of the worst things of his presidency. The coup in Honduras wasn't one of the bad things. The coup in Libya, turning it into a slave state, was one of the bad things. What you did in Syria, causing death and destruction, wasn't the bad things. And all these tweets are cryptically out there to make us believe that we have to have a push to get rid of all the guns in the country. We have to de-arm our citizens. Meanwhile, they can't even get a vote on the floor to stop sending serious weapons that kill people into fucking Yemen. But that's the difference between the two. The same people who will go, we have to do something with the Second Amendment, fam, are the same ones who have the Ukrainian flag in their bio, while they're okay sending Stinger missiles to Azov battalion members who are going to shoot at families in the Donbass. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. Scott Horton had this pinned yesterday, I believe. Fam, he says, I blame Rand Paul. He's supposed to be a young Ron in the Senate, and with more willingness, to rumble, says you. He was never his father. He could have been a championing this resolution all along. We know he knows about the war. He's why we had to rely on Bernie Sanders and his friends to even try. And then he has this whole thing here that says, bitch. And then it says down below, Mike Lee, too, who also said that it was not one single GOP co-sponsor in the Senate. Not one. America first. Nothing, fam. Nothing.
Well, because, I mean, the whole America first thing, I mean, that's why it doesn't stick, because it doesn't impact America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than the money aspect of it, which, I mean, it's hardly the most expensive area where we're sending our money to. So that's why my issue with making it all about the money is what it is with libertarians. It's like, well, if it's only about the money, then you're going to okay some things because it's not costing a lot of money. Like, the thing is with the money we send to the funding of this war is nothing compared to what we're sending to Ukraine. So the focus is more on Ukraine, because it doesn't matter about the people impacted. It matters about the money. And that's my issue with that mentality, is like, you should care about both. Obviously, if you want to be fiscally conservative with the money that's not being used on American workers and American civilians, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, well, this is a U.S. sponsored genocide. I mean, added to the list of U.S. sponsored genocides that we have on our end. And I just don't think Rand Paul was ever half of his father, or ever will be. And I think a lot of people have been lying to themselves thinking he is. But I mean, he's definitely voiced some good things, done some good things. But
yeah, I mean, he has. But like Scott Horton said, he was just absent on this. And you're right, fam.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, the fact that what Clinton would tell us, we can always depend on the anti-imperialist left to go out there and fight against war, because they're very compassionate about what goes on, right? To us, it's a socio-economic issue, a compassionate, a life issue. There's a lot of race involved when we talk about this, racial issues, when we're just going around bombing black and brown people. And, me, I don't play the identity politics games that much, but you can't deny this and stuff. And likewise, I think a lot of, like, because it's a lot of white people in Ukraine, a lot of freaking people who put those Ukraine flags in their bio, don't care as much, and they'll play those games every once in a while. But whatever the case may be, I'm glad that the libertarians are fiscally, responsible, and that's why they bring up war and how much it costs and the blowback. But at the end of the day, fam, when you look at the tweeters today, it's mostly the libertarians, people like Clint, people like Reed, people like Scott, people like Dave. Those are the guys tweeting about that. The Democrats or the leftists or the progressives or the fraud squad people, fucking silent, fam. Silent on this shit, and it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's anti-imperialist, though. Who care?
Let's look at this really quick. Antiwar.com, Scott Horton stuff, Dave DeCamp, all our friends over there. We love them. Great work. Sanders withdrew Yemen war powers resolution vote over Biden opposition. The White House was asking senators to vote against the resolution and threatened Biden would veto the bill. So in other words, he said, Bernie Sanders says on Tuesday night, he withdrew his request on the vote on the Yemen war powers resolution that would end the U.S. support for the Saudi-led war and blockade on Yemen, citing White House opposition to the bill. And let's be honest, this is not just about the Saudis, ladies and gentlemen. We've showed you time and time again that Israel has a big part to play when it comes to what goes on in Yemen. That's why the United Arab Emirates came in and they started joining the war, and they were all involved. There are geographical locations and points that Israel wants to make sure they procure, including Socotra, which is just south of Yemen, which now the UAE, United Arab Emirates, issued visas for Israelis to go over there, and supposedly they're setting up a base. It's a geographical strategic area. So there's a lot more people who were involved than just the Saudis who were pissed off at the Yemenis. They're not. This is about Israel. This is about the United States. This is about securing geographical locations, and that's what they want. We've been talking about it for quite some time. I just want to finish up the rest of the article, or the part of the article, real quick, fam. Senator said on the Senate floor that he was informed ahead of the scheduled vote on the administration's opposition to the legislation, meaning President Biden would veto the resolution. The Intercept reported earlier in that day. The White House was pressuring senators to vote against the bill, and Democrats came out in opposition to Sanders' resolution earlier on Tuesday, fam, including one Senator Alex Padilla.
No. Padilla's opposed to the resolution? You don't say.
Fam?
We haven't been warning you about Alex Padilla for how many years now? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But of course, he moved on up by being corrupt, because that's what happens in the Democratic Party. The more corrupt you are, the more power you attain. And that's what happened with Alex Padilla, one of the most corrupt Secretary of States we've ever had, who ensured that progressives were never going anywhere, and literally probably still continues through the Senate. I mean, now he's moved on up, but now he's talking about, legislation that's imperialist, and here we are. We are.
And fam, the reason why he won that election, right? It was an airtight, secure election in California. Nothing fun, no funny business going on over there with weeks of early counting and then saying that the machines didn't get a count and people accessing the backs of the machines. We've showed so much corruption in California. It's ridiculous when it comes to their elections. But speaking about elections, fam, on the night of 2020, you were here in Vegas with me, Johnny, and our good friends, Rob and Kelsey, and we set up this beautiful location at an awesome Airbnb, and we brought you a star-filled night of guests and people coming on and giving their opinions. And one of the guys who came on before RBN was even a thing, before Fred Hampton left us was even a thing, is our good friend Nick, Socialist MMA in the house. What's up, Nick?
What's popping? My friends, my family. It's good to be on the Combo Couch. Thank you for inviting me on, guys.
It's good to have you back on. Fam, do you want to start asking anything special to Nick before we just dump right into the Twitter files? Because, I think that I'm pretty sure that Nick is kind of like on the fence with supporting the fraud squad, right? You're kind of like, you're like, wait, unless you read your Twitter, and then you'll see he is not all about the fraud squad. Give us a little opinions about, because you've been through this whole process. Now you've had a show. Give us your thoughts on what you actually think the fraud squad is all about.
I give them no benefit of the doubt. I think they are playing a very particular role, the same role that Obama used to play, where you take people who have somewhat anti-establishment, progressive tendencies, and you fund them into the Democratic Party. When you have them voting for endless war, voting for weapons to Taiwan, voting for funds to Nazis, apologizing for funding for the Iron Dome, what they're doing is a very particular psyop. They are here to be the left flank of the Democratic Party, and they are here to represent the left. So by the actions they take, they want to pass off as being the left positions. That's why you see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the far right. They are allowed to speak up against like the Ukraine war, for example, while people like Bernie Sanders and the squad vote for that. So that'll spread the message that this is somehow the left position to support war. It's somehow the left position to break the railroad strike. And that's the message that like Ryan Grimm is trying to put out there. So it's not like they're just the best among us who get it wrong sometimes. They're here to perform a psyop to trick people who are not as politically inclined as we are, because we are obviously political junkies. But I know people, I'm sure you guys do as well, people who are good faith, people who want to change, but they're fooled by a Bernie Sanders, an Ilhan Omar, and AOC, and that is what that is designed to do. I was one of those people for quite some time, right? So that's why I think they're nefarious, and that's why we got to continue to speak out against them. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet put out by DSA today, essentially calling to expel Kashama, but it's not only just a Bernie, AOC, squad thing. There's almost like a entire apparatus that is DSA, Justice Democrats, and their media heads that are designed to protect the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll find that tweet in a second and we can talk about it because I think it's important. I actually responded to that tweet.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about your exchange here because I actually invited Samira Khan on the show, but she never got back to me. I wanted to see a sort of the debate between you guys. But I mean, I tend to agree with you, Nick, in terms of how you view this idea of wokeism. I don't know if Pasta does, but I definitely do. This whole thing with that Elon Musk has released the Twitter files, I'm not against the release of the information. I'm not like a shit lib that thinks like, oh my God, this information is going to hurt our chances or whatever, or because I just hate Elon Musk. I think it's dumb to trust a billionaire connected to the military industrial complex and the State Department. Trust me, that's not the same reason liberals don't like Elon Musk. So for me, this whole thing is very, very much hyper-partisan. It's been pretty much conservatives are the only victims. There hasn't been any, oh, look at the anti-imperialists, the pro-Palestinian voices that are shadow banned. Look at the state affiliated accounts that are shadow banned. Like why? Like none of that is being talked about. It's information we already sort of knew, but now we have more details. The way it's been released via screenshots is really weird. And then of course you have people like Barry Weiss, who we know is a player in this game. And for me, this whole focus on wokeism really is a game that is being played to pit us against each other. For example, let's take the issue of trans issues. Both the liberals and Republicans hyper-focus on this issue when it doesn't affect the vast majority of the population. And they just sit there and they start talking about this. And I don't think it should be that important. I don't think this culture war, wokeism or anti-wokeism should be the main thing. We should be talking about economics. We should be talking about what we can do to better people's lives tangibly. What are the things we can do? And that's not being talked about. And people like Elon Musk are there to really push this agenda. He said the woke mind virus is either defeated or nothing else matters. Your take on that?
Yo, CJ did an amazing stream talking about recuperation. And as a Black American, this drives me crazy. And as we've been continuing to talk about this, we educated a lot of people. There are a lot of white people who are using this term, have no idea the origin of it. It's hilarious. There's so many people that after listening to our show, like, oh, we didn't know this. And this has been a long trend in American history where you have a term endearment by Black people, a Black term that is bastardized and weaponized and turned into a slur by white America. And I let it go for quite some time because I thought it was like a trend where people were talking about wokeism. But now I realize, oh, this is not going anywhere. This is the permanent talking point of the right for at least for some years to come. And Barack Obama, there's an old clip of him complaining about wokeism in 2019 as well. I don't know why anyone who's anti-establishment, anyone who's anti-imperialist will go along with this. Being woke is about being aware of your surroundings, acknowledging who your enemies are. It's an intellectually powerful pursuit. So, of course, billionaires like Elon Musk want us to be asleep. That is the exact opposite of what it means to be woke, is to be asleep. Now, in the Black community, and I remember this fondly growing up, where whenever someone would say, "Oh man, we gotta stick together. We can't allow our differences to distract us. We got to make sure we focus on the man." Whenever someone says stuff like that, they're like, "Oh man, this guy's woke." Fred Hampton was woke. Now they took this term and demonized it because they try and demonize intellectualism. They try and demonize compassion. If you're an anti-capitalist, if you're for the workers, if you're for end the war, we should not demonize what it means to be compassionate. And now there are a lot of idiots, and I'm talking about the mad communists and the people who go around using wokeism as a slur who can't separate two things. They can't separate woke imperialism and understanding what they are doing that is part of PSYOP of taking the left position and trying to pretend that this is supposed to be for pro-war activity being woke. That is not. If you are part of the Democratic Party, if you're a war criminal, you are not woke. That they used to call that virtue signaling. Why did they change the term? The idea that you against things that you claim you represent. So as people who are intellectual, I'll pass to you, Pops. I know you want to go.
Well, I just want to jump in really quick because I want to kind of say what you're talking about. Like, I get that. And, liberalism was changed. When at one point we were like, I'm a liberal, and now you can't do it because it was taken away. Another second, progressive was being used by Nancy Pelosi, calling herself progressive. And I get the way these change words, but I think that there has to be, Nick, some accountability from the fact that the left in America is not left. And what they decided to concentrate on is what also helped taint that word. You know what I'm saying? The fact that they concentrate on the trans issues, but don't know what's going on in the Ukraine. The fact that they concentrate about abortion, but don't even understand why Julian Assange is in jail. So I think there has to be some accountability from the American Fugazi left for letting that fall into that same kind of premise that the word liberal fell in and progressive fell in. Go ahead, buddy.
That's a good point. I don't think we let it fall. We have no voice. RBN was the first real Black left network. Like you see Black Power Media and like Nico, he was an independent commentator, but for the most part there's no voice of the working class. Convo Couch, you guys do a good job as well, but for the most part, whatever the Democratic Party psyop is, they will win on that because they silence the voices of the workers. They silence the voice of the Black community. Now, what I think is the most impactful way to debunk this is to explain that these people are frauds. Instead of pretending that Nancy Pelosi is woke, isn't it better messaging to say that she's a fraud who's lying to people? That's a much more persuasive argument. Instead, I see people like Jackson, I see Haas, I see mad communists who pretend that people who are woke who are imperialists. And that actually undercuts our movement. That actually misleads a ton of people. When you pretend that Goldman Sachs, when you pretend that the elite, like Samira Khan, a few of these people I was talking to, when you pretend that they are woke, you are providing shield for them. You're actually putting this message out that they do care about these things, but they're just inconsistent. What we say is that the Democratic Party is by no shape or form woke, meaning aware, being compassionate, being intellectual. It's much more powerful to make that argument to pretend that they are nothing that they are not, actually.
Right.
Go ahead, Fiorella.
No, I just want to say I see this as the same way the idea of calling Biden and Kamala Harris communists is just being that whole idea. These words are being taken away. And of course, the left, what pasta means is like the synthetic left is to blame for this too, because they have bastardized the idea of intellectualism to mean an empty veneer of just social issues with no justice, just social superficiality, identity politics. And that's not the real left, but by all accounts, it is what's left of the Western left. Like what people think of left, they think of AOC, they think of, like DSA. They don't think of that. They don't see, especially the right, a difference between AOC and what we're talking about. And they should, because we literally hate those people because we see them as frauds, but they don't see that whole difference at all. And I think there's obviously a difference between us and between those people.
Well, let me say this much. Today is a day we don't make fun of AOC. Okay. AOC did something good in the FTX hearing. So we let's today
stop pasta.
Fam, she did good. So we have to take a day off of bagging on her and stuff. But go ahead, Nick, respond to that. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I want to hear from you, and then I want to show his tweet. But yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Another reason why we started speaking out on this, not only because we see that this is not dying, because I allowed this to go for quite some time, because I thought it was slowed down and haven't. We need to push back against anti-intellectualism in our movement. And I'm saying that as not being holier than thou. I'm talking about myself as well. Why did so many people were tricked by Bernie Sanders? Why were so many people tricked by Barack Obama? Why are there so many people who go along with capitalist imperialist ideology? It goes back to anti-intellectualism. The capitalist class wants to keep you dumb. They want you to keep you unaware. We should not by any means, shape, or form condone that. And that is why you see this the right wing, they call anyone who show compassion, like if you stand up for the Palestinian people, they're like, oh my God, they're being woke. If you talk about the fact that 60% of black people are 60% of civil asset forfeiture cases are black. Oh my God, you've been woke. You playing the race card. Oh my! If you bring up the fact that kids are in cages, right when we're like, oh my God, you've been woke. You guys see how they weaponize that to weaponize compassion and intellectualism? Anti-intellectualism has killed our movement long enough. We cannot allow people to think that we are dumb. But go ahead, Pasta, if you want to.
I was just going to say I wouldn't call it the capitalist class. I'd call it the predator class. Is the
one. We had conversations.
We had this conversation, right? It's not just the capitalists. It's obviously we see this global freaking kind of plan, which, you know, there's a lot of people. Corey Morningstar was on the morning show, and she says, you know, stakeholder capitalism is the same thing as capitalism. And then you have a bunch of libertarians going, no, that's not true. But yeah, whatever the case may be, I believe those are in charge, those who are up above, they want the rest of the people to be anti-intellectual.
But they're all capitalist, Pasta.
Sure.
We had an argument about RBN about this.
Oh, we have this argument all the time. We literally just
the left only deals in capitalist countries. Sure. But anyways, I don't want to have this discussion now, fam. This is not the time for the no. Okay. But let's get to Nick's tweet, because at the end of the day, that's the thing, is to keep us stupid. This goes back to George Carlin. It's to keep us dumbed down. Like we do this all the time. We're talking about Brazil on a regular basis, Nick, and there's a whole ecosystem of populist right, semi-independent but big following media that is claiming that Lula is a capitalist, and it's the Marxists coming in, and that's how they're firing.
Communists, you mean?
Yeah. Well, they say communist, Marxism. They say everything. You know, they literally. But they want you to believe that's the communist is hiding under your bed, because the communist versus the capitalist. This is the capital. Danny Haiphong put up a tweet that said, "Oh, capitalists or whatever," and I'm like, that's not the way to win people over, because you got one side going these capitalists, this other side going these communists. That's to keep us fighting with each other, while those up above, whether you call them capitalists, communists, globalists, whatever the hell you want to call them, those who are pulling the strings run off with all the money because we are divided and fighting each other. So that I think we can all agree on, yes or no, whatever. But please,
just to that point.
Yeah.
When I have my microphone, like when I'm on Twitter, when I'm on YouTube, I talk my shit. I use socialism, capitalism, because I think it's very important to identify your enemy. Now, I have a different strategy when I'm talking to people. Like when I was in South Carolina, talking to the most conservative people, you got to know your audience. One-on-one conversations are different. Like I think if you're talking to a conservative, like once I live in Missouri, I got a ton of experience with this. You're talking to a conservative, may not, it's not a good idea to like quote Lenin and Mao, right? You want to drag them along, but I think like when you have a megaphone, like whether it's on Twitter or YouTube, I think as socialists, we shouldn't shy away from pointing capitalism out as an enemy. But I see your point, but that's how I respond.
Socialism has its own problems too, Nick. I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying, too much centralized power is too much centralized power. But I don't want to get into that conversation, because I think there's a lot of beautiful things about collectivism, because we've been down to the global south.
Centralized power and capitalism at all, right? No.
I'm not pushing capitalism. I'm for a mixed system. I'm saying they're both bad. I've always said those who are pulling the strings can manipulate any system, but that's a different discussion. I want to stay on this whole Elon Musk thing and let Nick read his tweet. Go right ahead, Nick.
Yeah. So I said Elon is super desperate to push the culture war to distract Americans from the class warfare being waged by the billionaire class right now. The battle against wokeism is deeply unserious and a distraction, considering we live in a warmongering country ran by criminals. And this is the thing. This is why I brought up on RBN. Do you guys think it's a coincidence that an imperialist like Elon Musk, a capitalist like Elon Musk, is against wokeism? Of course, he don't want people to talk about the relationship between capital and the workers. Of course, he don't want the workers to be intellectually equipped. He wants people to focus on nothing but the culture war, and that is what all the billionaire class push. And not only just the right, and this is the unifying message of RBN that social democrats can't repeat. It's the Democrat and Republican Party that weaponize the culture war. But in this particular instance, because I think it's, and people criticize me for this all the time. They're like, why don't you say Republicans? Why don't you say Democrat when I criticize another? I think that muddy your message when you do that. I'm like, I'm gonna focus on this person, only this person, and when I talk about the other person, it'll come up. That's why I'm talking about Elon here, because since I'm on Twitter a lot, I'm not gonna lie, I am on Twitter a lot. I've noticed what Elon is doing very particular. Like he spent $44 billion on Twitter to try to shift the conversation to nonstop trans and culture war issues. Now, this is extremely important to do as a billionaire. When you became the world's richest man during an economic recession, when you have a massive unionized push in America, more workers are becoming more militant. You have more people that are calling out the war machine. So what is the best thing for you to do as a billionaire who is in love with the system? Distract and deflect from the conversation. And to me, that is so extremely obvious of what Elon is doing. And you mentioned the Twitter files earlier, and I talked about this on RBN. Even with that, like I am happy that he released the Hunter Biden thing. I'm extremely happy that he exposed the how Twitter decided to ban Trump. But as you guys see, it's only here. It's almost like capitalist infighting at this point. He's releasing things that are only going to benefit the right. And when he put, and I was still giving him benefit of the doubt until he literally tweeted. He said there was no suppression of left accounts, only right accounts.
Yeah, he did tweet that.
So
Where is that?
Guys, I'll tell you guys this right now. The second he tweeted that, my interest in this story died. Like I was still, I wanted to read Donald Trump stuff, but other than that, it died because I don't talk about this a lot because at the end of the day, it's just Twitter. It's just fun to me. I don't really care. But I had like 20,000 followers, and this is the anecdotal experience to show you why this is bullshit. After Super Tuesday, I have around like 15 to 20,000 followers. I was getting around, and I look at my impressions because I remember very clearly with my friends. I'm just curious, how many impressions are you getting? So I looked. I got 30 million Twitter impressions every month after the campaign. Now this is how many people see your tweets. I have about 80,000 followers now. I get 5 million. So with algorithm as it is right now, less people, literally a 6 people see my tweets, despite me having like 4 times less followers. Mm-hmm. So there's no doubt the left has been censored, and Elon Musk is here to shift the conversation away from that. He's not here to talk about the Nicaraguan Twitter accounts that was banned when they were speaking out against the CIA talking points in that country. So when he did that, I'm like, okay, this is capitalist fighting, gaslighting nonsense, where you sprinkle some truths in while lying by omission in a massive way with like what Elon's doing. But Pasta, I will give you, I think you want to chime in, right?
Well, I was going to say that I think that we have to look at this for what's going on. There is a global agenda for control. There is the Great Reset. They're trying to move us into certain things. What a lot of people don't look at when it comes to Elon Musk is, number one, the majority of his money he got was from being a defense contractor. He's also the Neuralink guy, and he is an imperialist because he said shit like Bolivia will coup who we want to coup because they're going down there to coup that country because they have the natural resources that he needs to run his country. But at the end of the day, you know, he wants to take Twitter and move it into like a WeChat, which they do in China, where all your functions that you do on a daily basis, whether it be banking, food, finance, all whatnot, is used in one app. So I think a lot of this is also to move people for this global agenda of control into one spot. And he's part of that. You know, it's not a coincidence that you have the FTX thing going on at the same time, right? This is all happening at one time because we're in a state of acceleration. They're behind schedule and they're trying to move us into a certain spot. That's what the whole COVID situation, in my opinion, was about, was not just about maybe getting rid of some of us that shouldn't be around here because there's a lot of us on the planet, but was also moving us into these QR codes in which they can track, trace, find out what we're doing, find out what we're buying, find the dissenting voices, how we're getting together and planning stuff, and they can control all that. So I think Elon Musk coming in at this time, it's not just about, oh, this guy, this billionaire buying Twitter because he wants to. It's part of the plan, baby. It's part of the plan, and that's what's going on.
No, that's exactly it, Pasta. I agree with that 100%. I think once again, I just think this is Elon Musk and his faction of capitalism doing narrative control.
Yeah,
and like Elon, like I don't give him any benefit of the doubt. Like this is a guy who said that he was a supporter of Barack Obama, but then now you see the Democratic Party going too far left. Like this guy only have class interests in mind. You're 100% Pasta. 100%.
Yeah, well, the thing with Elon Musk is he's playing to whatever is convenient for him. With the release of the Twitter files, you have a bunch of people who distrusted Elon Musk now saying, Elon Musk, can you do this? Elon Musk, reveal this. Oh my God, thank you so much for giving voice to X people, Elon Musk. And I think that is a mistake because not only are you relying on a billionaire on that level, you're relying on somebody that gets their money and is funded by the State Department, has ties to the CIA, has ties to the national security state apparatus. And you're giving him all this credit for these revelations. Now, as Nick said, like, I'm not against him revealing these things that a lot of us knew happened with Hunter Biden, with the censorship of of certain doctors who were talking about COVID in a different way. With all that stuff, like, I'm not against that. I think that's fine. I just think like it's being weaponized for his agenda. And whether you call them globalist or capitalist, at the end of the day, it's these factions that are trying to really control the entire system. And this is why I believe there's actual opposition to that in terms of Russia, in terms of China, in terms of other countries that are anti-imperialist or at the very least anti-West. They have this agenda that they're trying to promote. And that agenda is really rooted, in my opinion, it's rooted in imperialism, which in my opinion is the highest form of capitalism. But I think now that is going to the next level, which is the imperialism of the human being, which means the control of the human being. We're talking about being able to control who you talk to, right? Who you watch, what you think. It's a very Orwellian state of affairs that we're going into. So I think that Elon is just a player. And obviously, in spite of the fact that there's a lot of billionaires, there's a handful of billionaires vying for control of everything, they're going to have their fighting. They're not all going to agree with everything. That doesn't mean that you should be like, well, this is the most nicest evil villain here. This is Thanos. Maybe this guy will be better off for us. At least recognize that you are trying to rely on a billionaire to save you, somebody that's not just a billionaire, but that is funded as well by the worst people in the entire world. And you can't put that aside and pretend that doesn't exist just because you this is a good thing. And I did want to highlight Pasta, somebody responding to Nick with
chat
that
is
culture.
going crazy right now, fam. There's
That-
like
It is.
chat's going crazy. There's people going after me, people going after Nick, people going after Yuffie. We're all getting beat up. Everybody's opinionated over here. There's so many people with these opinions. Maybe y'all should start your own show. Go ahead, fam.
No, can you just pull up because I wanted to touch
Which
on
one?
the response to Nick. There's several tweets there. I think it's the one you haven't shown. Yeah. Okay. So this person said, Shamin, he said, how can you say that what you said when wokeism is one of their main weapons to indoctrinate, ostracize, control, and divide people? What do you say, Nick, to people who say that it's wokeism that has divided us, that has indoctrinated us? What do you say to those people?
I saw that argument. I actually know the guy. We mutuals. We agree with each other a lot. But that is such a ridiculous argument. The culture war is used to divide us. Now, and I always make this explanation on my show. If you are a trans person, right, and you see your rights is under attack, you fighting for that is not a culture war. Fighting for your rights is the most legitimate battle that you can have. Fighting against the government cracking down on your lifestyle. Now, if you're a random white dude in Kentucky, where there's maybe like 5 trans people in the entire state, why are you so focused on the trans issue? The only reason it is because you're being the divisive one. So when people say, oh, the wokeism is dividing society, no, it's the people without empathy. It's the people who can't leave people alone. Like, if you can't leave people the hell alone, it is not the people who are woke that is driving the wedge. It is you. So and there are many right-wing populists who claim they care about ending the war. And if you believe that ending the wars is so important, why will you divide that movement because someone have a different take on the trans issue than you do? And I see this all the time. The MAGA communists are the biggest people who are into the cancel culture. They cancel anyone who is not as socially conservative as they are. I know I went through this today. Like, all these people who used to love my tweets, now all of a sudden I'm the worst thing ever because I spoke out on their social conservatism. So the people who are dividing the workers are the people who see people who live different lifestyles than them, and they want to be judgmental. Fam, and this is how I am. I'm one of the people, I do not care what you do as long as it doesn't harm me or my family. So when I see these people who, like, how many of these people are running to trans people every day? How many of these people, they're like, I remember I looked this up when this debate was going on. I remember the debate about trans athletes. Like, if you Google like high school trans athletes, there's like 5 to 10. Like, there's like 5 to 10 in the entire country. But people pretend it's something that directly impacts them. Now, to that tweet, he's saying wokeism is using to divide people. No, it's the fact that people can't leave other people alone, mind their damn business, and understand that we got to form coalitions on things we agree with, and have a laser focus on that. I have conversations on RBN with people I disagree with all the time. I'm not here to divide and attack the movement over these things. But I noticed the number one people who want to divide people on this are the partisans, are the Democrats and the Republicans who take hard stances on the social issues. So that's why it doesn't make sense for them to say that. But go ahead, Pastor, if you want to.
Well, let me just say, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on this too as well. Yeah, I agree that it's not as big of a problem as people talk about. The RTC, the CTR, CRT, critical race theory that my mom will bring up, and when I go to Florida and the Fox News watchers, like, what I'm like, I think they're really kind of putting fuel on the fire, but they are putting fuel on the fire. They have implemented these culture wars within our society to keep us divided, because the culture wars are way more effective than anything else, because at the end of the day, it's about your neighbor not accepting trans people or your neighbor not accepting abortion. It's not about the ruling class doing things. It's about your neighbor being an enemy. And let me tell you something, Nick. When we talk about what we experience, especially in Nicaragua, right? So we go to Bilwi, which is the Ivory Coast. First of all, it's an autonomous zone, which means they make their own laws, their own rules. So the conservatives are like, what? They have their own, decentralized area. We're like, yeah, they got 2 of them out of their 8 regions, by the way. But they are very socially conservative when you go down. They're very religious. They don't believe in gay marriage. They don't agree with abortion. They're not going to even legalize marijuana. And the majority of the people you talk to over there, they don't really even grasp the trans issue that's going on in America. I'm not to say that they're completely blindsided and everybody in Nicaragua is not like that. No, but there's a lot of people like that. I firmly believe that these things, these issues, these culture war issues have been thrusted upon society so that we fight each other. And here's the thing, the implementation of the state going into kids' lives and trying to thrust it upon kids and not their parents, that's where the big issue comes from. I'm not saying that they are right, a lot of the populace right, when they are rejecting these things, but I think when it comes to their children, they have every right and they should stay out of this whole situation. And that's why we have this thing. It's not just about the individual not prioritizing what we should be looking at. It's also the state thrusting in these issues. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, if you're one of the people who are worried about, the state is implementing the woke agenda and I don't want my kids to be influenced by that, maybe you should be a better parent. That's my suggestion. Now there's conversations that we can have in those aspects, a lot of debate that we can have. But if you're voting for your oppressors, like if you're voting for Ron DeSantis because you're worried about woke ideology being taught in schools, I think you're a moron. You're voting against your material interests over a cultural difference. Now that's where I get confused. I understand that we have different takes on these things. If you want to debate how much the state should allow LGBT or whatever information be spread to their kids, it's different from having that debate. For now, you supporting nefarious, evil people because they are on your side of that debate. You understand what I'm saying? There are people who are Ron DeSantis fans. They vote for Republicans because of that, and I think that is beyond dumb. I think that's beyond dumb to support war criminals because they have these individual culture stands they have. That's just me, right? But
I think the whole thing, and I think you're both right, and because I think the whole thing is being exploited. Like, I mean, I think you have Democrats who exploit the trans issue for virtue signaling to make them feel like they're the most, active and voices for trans people. And I think then you have the right who equate any sort of trans person with a pedophile, which I think it's absolutely wrong. And I've seen it in this whole argument. Yes, all of these drag queens, they're all pedophiles. You can't say that. You can't make a vast hold on, I'm not done.
Okay.
You can't make a vast generalization about an entire group of people and say they're pedophiles if you don't want your children to be taken to a drag show, which, by the way, I think it's wrong to take kids to a drag show. I think it's wrong to take kids to sexualized scenarios when they're children. They're supposed to be children. I think it's just wrong. That's just my opinion, and that's how I wouldn't have children raised in a brothel. I wouldn't have children sexualized early on. And I do think there is a trend in liberal media, and there is a trend in Hollywood to sexualize children. I do think that that is true. And I do think that is also done by design because they know the right is responding to that. And they're like, oh my God, they're trying to, have pedophilia. And so there's all these people with like these sort of like, you have Biden's, what is it, his advisor, his administrator who is trans, and they put these people out in front. And that's how they get a lot of the younger generation that is super sexually fluid, super liberal on these issues. My sister is Gen Z. I know how they are. They're very much like, they don't care. They, we're this, we're that. Like, that's just how they are. And I think there has been a sort of agenda to push this whole thing. But at the same time, I think that is taken to the extreme also by the right because it works to really divide people on issues that focus literally don't affect the vast majority of the population. We shouldn't be talking about these issues. We shouldn't be arguing about these issues. These issues should be up to the individuals that are facing them. I'm all for equality for people in the United States. You're not going to get away with saying you can't have LGBTQ propaganda like you get in Russia. Russia's more of a conservative country on social issues. Russians majorly agree with Putin on these issues, same way Nicaraguans agree with Daniel Ortega on these issues in the majority. The United States has a different perception. You're not going to get away with that. But at the same time, I think these issues are absolutely exploited. And we should be talking about economics. We shouldn't be talking about all of this.
And I'll remind you guys this real quick. I know you want to get in politics. Can I remind you guys this something real quick? Do you guys know that social conservatives always do the "What about the kids" act? Like, this is nothing new.
No.
When they fought for the drug war, they was like, "Oh my God, we gotta have marijuana illegal because what about the kids?" During the anti-gay push during the 80s, we gotta fight against the homosexual agenda because what about the kids? And then George Carlin talked about this all the time. This verge of child worship. How about you just be a good parent? I question the prevalence of drag shows with kids on there. I know Live TikTok take a country where millions of people live, and they show one example of this stuff. They're like, oh my God, look at this massive problem. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think this is a thing. I think you got bad parents who do bad things every once in a while, like there's always been. But social conservatives always weaponize the kids. We got banned this because the kids. We got banned this for the kids. I don't care about child worship. Be a parent and protect your kids. Have a community around you, protect your kids. But it shouldn't be like any sort of impact in our cultural war conversation. That's just me. But go ahead.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you because it's more and more every single year. Look what I have up right here. Okay. This is the stuff I'm talking about. Okay. Bill advances to let California teens get vaccinated without their parents' consent. I mean, this shit's going on on a regular basis.
I don't like that either.
Okay, they got drag queen story time hours where they bring the drag queens, and I know drag queens. I have a good friend of mine.
How often do they have that, though, is the point. Like, is this a big epidemic that is happening? Like, how many people? How many drag queens do you see giving bedtime stories?
I'm not saying that it's going to be the number one priority on the list, but it is continuing to happen, and we are seeing more advancement. There are situations, fam, now we're talking about where kids are allowed to get puberty blockers at a young age, right? And that might not be the best decision. It should be done with the family and the doctor outside the schools. It shouldn't be involved in the schools. The same reason when you see all these conservatives going now, hey, man, we need to get religion back in the school. They took God out of school. I don't agree with that. You know what I'm saying? It should be for learning, for teaching, religion, politics, social issues, cultural issues, out of the classroom and teach the kids shit they need to go move on. First of all, that whole system's all screwed up.
Yeah,
anyway.
the education
system's all screwed up anyways right now. I mean, so it's like, we're trying to put lipstick on a pig over here, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. In some situations, they're treating kids like adults and adults like kids. And that's the problem. That's a Tyler Fisher line. Oh, you want to do this? You want to get a shot at 13 years old and not tell your parents? Fine, we'll do that. But an adult in LA, oh, you want a cheeseburger? Show us your little shot. Okay, there's your Band-Aid. There's your card. I mean, it's all messed up. Is it the number one problem? No. You obviously know I feel that way. I mean, we started the Convo Couch to talk about foreign policy because foreign policy for all of us, we know how it's thrown under the bus, and we never talk about the things we should talk about. But it's still hard for me to sit there and say that a lot of parents don't have beef for what the state is trying to do, and implement some of these things. There's got to be good balance on both sides, right and left.
Personal opinion, I just think they're lazy parents. Now, think about when you're a kid. When you was a kid, when I was a kid, I was aware that gay people existed. I was aware that trans people existed. You have the right wing that's freaking out, like, oh my god, they have gay teachers that talking about their boyfriend and girlfriends. Like, why are we protecting? You guys know kids grow up and become adults eventually, right? They're gonna have to know these kind of stuff. This stuff. So I don't understand the meltdown on that, and to the point where this massive distraction. If you're worried about gay teachers teaching your kids stuff, homeschool your kids. Like that's just me. I think this is just a waste of time and something that we shouldn't be focused on. And this is something that I mean, once again, Carlin spoke on this as well. This child worship where people pretend we gotta protect the kids, we gotta protect them. Kids grow up to become adults. Kids grow up to be teenagers. Like this whole culture war stuff is ridiculous to me. Like especially with that. Like if you should be my mom and my dad will have conversations with me just so if another adult or if I ran to something that was mind jarring, we had these conversations. We talked this out. We talked about sex stuff. We had these conversations. I feel like now Americans are so overworked. They're so busy. They're lazy. They don't want to do that. They want the TV to raise their kids. They want the teacher to raise their kids. So that's just my opinion. I think it's mostly old school. There's nothing new. This is old school conservatism where they pretend that kids are under attack. But no, I don't necessarily buy that.
I believe the state is definitely implementing certain things to keep us divided. This is Amber King. I have to pay for my child's Medicare, but I'm unable to view their records or text results. The 12-year-old is supposed to navigate the American healthcare one love, the healthcare system, I think is what it said.
And to that story you showed earlier, I think the parents should be involved in those decisions.
Of course.
Let's go to my argument earlier. I think parents need to take responsibility to educate your kids. And I'm 31 years old, and I don't have kids because I don't think I'm in a position to do that. I think there's a ton of people having kids when they're not ready. There's a lot of people who are lazy parents, and it's a system problem because you got people working 60 hours a week, so they can't afford to have these conversations with kids. So of course, and I understand why the parents are upset because they're not there for them. But these are something. It's just something that when you allow bad decisions to be made politically because of these things, I'm gonna strongly disagree with that. Like going to my earlier point, if you vote for Ron DeSantis because you're a lazy parent, that's something I'm gonna strongly disagree with. And I think we need to, instead of having reactionary approaches, what I see on both sides, we should be able to have conversation and debate and talk about these things, which a lot of people don't do. But sorry, Paz, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I want to get back to your tweet too as well, because I think while we were talking about this, Fee, did you have something to say, or should I go through this?
No. Let's go, because
So this was how can you say that wokeism is one of their main weapons to indoctrinate, ostracize, control, and divide people? And then you said the biggest war criminals and class warriors for the rich are not woke. It's John Bolton. Is John Bolton woke? Is Mike Pompeo woke? Is Steve Mnuchin woke? Is Goldman Sachs? This is completely unserious. This is a completely unserious talking point. Neoliberals are not woke. They just virtue signal. This is hard. How is this hard to understand? And then Shameen wrote down, did you read what I said? I said it's a weapon and used to control, divide, indoctrinate, and ostracize. I never said those in power.
The last sentence there. See, this is my problem. If you never say they're woke, why are you pretending wokeism is this giant problem? Why isn't it just virtue signaling? He just says it there. I don't think these people are woke. So why are you using that term? Why are you enabling that? But go ahead, Pasta. That last part, I remember reading. I'm like, you just made my point. Then, if they're not woke, why are you using that term? Right? But go ahead, Pasta.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, woke has been taken. It's been taken to mean something bad, and you're absolutely right. And I know I've said that several times before. Woke used to be a good thing. Like being woke used to be exactly what you said. It definitely came from Black culture.
Progressive.
It meant that you were aware. It literally means awareness of the reality. Like you understand things, and now it's looked on as the equate of the liberals. The liberals took that, and then the right exploited it. So it's kind of like, that's what I'm saying. This is like people like us end up really with a really hard job because we have to debunk both the liberals and the Republicans that are wrong, because you have Republicans calling Joe Biden a communist. We know he's not a communist. You have Republicans calling Lula a communist, calling everybody a communist, saying now that it's cool to talk about, for example, the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, you have every idiot, and I say this with no qualms, every idiot using the term globalist as like with anybody that has a picture with anybody at the World Economic Forum, when the vast majority of leaders have attended it, and they just slap, they're like, oh, this guy, he was at the World Economic Forum, that means he's tainted, blah blah blah. Literally like a year ago, people weren't even talking about this stuff, and now it's like, and I've seen like the MAGA communists do it. Oh yes, these are all Soros World Economic puppets, but they don't really go deep into the nuance of what that means, because they don't understand. Because for me, I don't mind using the term globalist, but for me it's like, it's all about imperialism. At the end of the day, this is what it is. And this is what I got out of your exchange, because you said it's not a weapon, it's something completely fake, made up in your mind. There is nothing about this poverty-driven, warmongering hellhole that is woke. The only people bitching about this are people who don't mind their own damn business. And Samira said, every U.S. adversary resisting, can you move it up so I can read it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Every U.S. adversary resisting Western imperialism has identified wokeism as a primary threat. They are proudly fighting the culture war being waged on their countries. Meanwhile, the Western anti-imperialist left outright denies what Putin and Khamenei have shed light on. Okay, so I have something to say on that, but first, Nick, I'll let you say something on that.
Yeah. For one, I question the accuracy of what she says. They're like pretending that all the anti-imperialist countries, anyone who is resisting the United States imperialism, to pretend that they are like they fighting this woke culture war. I would question the accuracy of that. Now, we all know, like Pasha said before, there are socially conservative countries, but her pretending that wokeism is the center of fighting against imperialism, and I'll go on and explain this later, that the only thing you're doing by saying this, you're not being edgy, you're not being anti-establishment, the only thing you're doing is shielding the neocons on the right. So to pretend that wokeism is used as a form of imperialism is to pretend only the Democratic Party is imperialist. Well, and that's why I mentioned before, yeah, all the list of the people in the Republican Party that is pushing endless imperialism and Western dominance. And a lot of the people, if you go, like, it's deep in the thread, a lot of mad communists, they were saying, oh my God, Nick, I can't believe you claiming that the Republicans are just as warmongering as the Democratic Party. So a lot of these people do it on purpose. Like, a lot of MAGA communists are so dumb, they legitimately believe that Republicans are less warmongering than the Democratic Party. So they see the Democratic Party wokeism, and they're like, oh my God, see, this is the cause of imperialism. It's ridiculous. But I would love to have your take on that, Fiorella.
MAGA communism.
You go first.
I would just say, how many people are in MAGA communism? 4. I mean, the number one. I mean, seriously, dude, listen. I spoke at the American Project, which is Patrick Burns, General George Flynn, his brother, all these election people. They're conservatives. They're not even conservative. They are MAGA. They are America First, MAGA type people. Their number one enemy is communism. They want nothing to do with communism. They don't understand communism, the majority of them and stuff, and they look at it as authoritarianism. But the MAGA communism thing is BS.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason I use that term because Samira is an unapologetic MAGA communist, so it's like I'm identifying who I'm debating. But I get your point on that.
Samira Khan just said breaking news the other day that George Soros is controlling Lula. I mean, that's how fucking. I mean, literally, not even understanding the nuance of what's going on over there and shit. And really, to tell you the truth, the MAGA communism crowd, and I've debated Jackson on Jimmy about this, is there's a lack of understanding about what's going on there right now. The way they're actually just peddling Steve Bannonite bullshit, which is just meant to divide us. That, it's like, and it's so funny because that group, that is saying that all these leftists here are woke leftists, that the ones that are taking power inside of Latin America, the Petro Gustavos, the Zamaro Castros, they're claiming them as just woke freaking agents coming in at the behest of George Soros and all the other globalists to go change things over. The Clinton, administration, the Clinton Foundation, that Petro was once that famous picture. The fact is, if you go down there, you'll understand why people have been forced in to collectivism, who've been forced into socialism and communism, because the number one thing that they want is national sovereignty, and they have an empire on their neck. So of course they're going to join together to get rid of that. So I mean, I just wanted to point that out. And Fee, go ahead. I'll let you take the the reins on this one.
Well, so the issue I have with Samira's response is like it's very reductive because you have the anti-imperialist countries that she's talking about are fighting for. They're fighting for national sovereignty first and foremost. They're fighting for economics. They're fighting to have literally to not be sanctioned, to not be blockaded, to have their own say in their government without the Western empire coming in and trying to coup them, take over their government, trying to be dictatorial to them, trying to extract their natural resources and exploit them for the benefit of the Western power. That's the majority of what they're fighting. In all of Putin's speech, which I literally posted on Twitter, he had 3 lines or 4 lines about the family first thing. Russia believes in a family that is, I don't know if he said man or woman or something. He said something along those lines that the West is trying to indoctrinate. In so many ways, the reason he's saying that is because the European Union and the West have supported literally Nazis while supporting rainbow flags. And you have the Azov battalion there with their Nazi insignia carrying rainbow flags to try to get people on their side. They're exploiting and tokenizing the LGBTQ community for the benefit of the imperialist class. And that's what they've been doing to us, to Latinos, to Black people, to every sort of minority. That's what they do. So that doesn't mean that that's a primary driving force. For Russia, they're, like I said, it's more of a conservative country socially. For Nicaragua and in Cuba, just voted for the family code, Código de Familias, which recognizes same-sex couples. That's what Cuba decided. What Russia has decided is another thing. What the United States decides, it's another thing. What any other country decides, it's a whole other thing. The whole point of this is national sovereignty. You can't say that just because Putin had 4 lines about fighting this agenda from the West, that it's the number one driving force. That's a very reductive thing to say. He might feel like there is a sort of like this Western indoctrination, and I agree that there's a trend in liberalism in the West to use these issues, put them front and center to divide us. I think that is a trend. We don't have to call it woke, but whatever it is, it's a trend that is happening both on the liberal end and on the right, because they're both focusing on it ad nauseum. And we're not talking about things that actually matter in terms of economics. But economics is what's driving these nations that are anti-imperialist. It is not fighting the culture war. And while you may think it's more effective to focus on it because it's what gets people talking, does it change anybody's life for the better or worse? It actually probably worsens it, because we're not really doing anything to face these tangible issues that people really need to focus on.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to put it. And we gotta probably scroll down the rest of the thread, because like there's so much I want to explain, but Twitter limits. that was a great explanation. But go ahead, Pasta.
Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching today. Please do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button. If you are a Rockfin Premium member, we are now on Rockfin as premium only. We'll put up some clips over there too as well, but we never put everything. We don't put it all behind a paywall. You can go over to see my friend on the Rumble, Vicky Lynn, fam. Vicky Lynn is in the chat. Vicky Lynn, she's watching the show. She's out there. And also on the YouTube chat, I just want to send some special love out to my good friend Chris Leone. I know he's upset with me, and there's been some chat going on. I am not a right-winger. I am not anti-gay. I am not anti-trans whatsoever. And in fact, the people in the chat, I think you guys should be easy with Chris, because I think there's what is sometimes misunderstood is that we grew up in a society that was very conservative and Christian and whatnot. So I had friends I'm almost 50. I had friends that had a hard time coming out and telling people they were gay. You know what I'm saying? So I know that that's going on there, and I will always stand for you and your right to do what you think is right, my friend. I will fight for that, because individualism and freedom and liberty is something that's important to us, to say what we want. And I will always stand there. I just have differences when it comes to bringing it into the schools. And I believe that it is brought there, and it is on a small basis, but I believe it is meant to kind of hype us up and fight each other. And I'm still.
And that's one thing I would say. I wish people would allow more nuance for debate, because you guys see it where I stand, where I come from. But I do think there's so many people that they hear like pastors say stuff like that, and then me like, oh, you must be a homophobe. Oh, you must be a transphobe because you don't agree with that trans people should be. Like, I feel like there should be that's why I mentioned earlier debate. Like we should be able to have these conversation without immediately calling someone ism, right, or homophobia or something. I do agree with that, but go ahead, Pastor.
Well, you know what? I have friends who, like I said, they are drag queens. My friend runs a drag queen fucking restaurant, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they do drag queen dances all the time. And I've spoke to several. I haven't spoke to all of them, but there's a few of them. And they would say, listen, they want to make sure they feel that them bringing it into the schools is going to eventually backfire on them. They want it kept in an adult setting. There's an adult club. You're 21 to come into, come have a good time, dance with the drag queens if you want, and they'll respect it. It's just fucked up because I believe it's put and it's fucking inserted to make sure that we fight each other and not the ruling class. I've always believed that. But anyways, show love to my friend Chris Leone. I know he's mad at me. I love him. And I'd look forward to having a conversation. You can always hit us up at the combocouch@gmail.com. Let's go through the rest of this stuff. Samira Khan, breaking news. Also says that George Soros is backing Lula. And Samira Khan's just more of that same type of person. She'll never come on with people who will push back, whether you push back against her in a nuanced way. She's just going to separate herself and stay out of those debates and arguments. So here you go, Nick. Let's talk about this one.
Okay, this is a response to Samira tweet. I just want to make sure I got the order because it was a few days ago. So, and this is I respond this way because she brought up Putin, and I'm like, and I'm explaining why, because what Fiorella, what you broke down is why I wanted to say to her, but Twitter have limits, right? So I'm like, the reason why I said the first line, Putin interests are my interest. I'm like, why are you even bringing up Putin when I'm talking about how wokeism and anti-intellectualism and wokeism was stolen from the Black community and used to dumb down the left movement? So why even bring up Putin in this conversation? So you doing that? She does that because she want to pigeonhole me in a certain. Oh, this is what Putin believes, so you should believe that. And that shows why Samira is ridiculous, because why, as a Black man in the United States that live in the Midwest, would Putin interests be my interest? So why you bring up Putin? I am fighting for one thing. And throughout the course of this thread, you see a lot of like Putin sycophants. You see a lot of people who love Putin, like, oh, Nick, you say Putin's not your interest. Putin don't have your interest. I'm like, yes, I'm fighting for my community and only my community, okay? I am fighting to end imperialism. And Putin, I agree with him fighting NATO, right? But that does not mean I have to agree with him being anti-gay. And that is what they're saying. They say if you don't agree with Putin's anti-gay stance, you must be anti-Russian. You must be pro. That is literally what Samira is saying. Reductive. So you can go back to my tweet and I'll explain the rest of it. I just want to explain that first part because it took a little more context there. So if you mind pulling up, just so I can read the rest of it. Here it is. And that tweet below kind of sums up what I was talking about, with people saying, "Oh, you saying that you don't agree with Putin being anti-gay? I mean, you must support."
Well, to be honest with you, Fee is there. Fee is there too, by the way. And Nick, and this is something I just want to point out real quick, that there are gay people in Moscow. There are gay clubs in Moscow. That's what our good friend Mark Sloboda told us. It's just that they don't have gay pride in the parades and stuff because it's the kids, and that's what's going on. I mean,
and I still think that's. Yeah. And I still think that's, excessive, and I don't agree with it. Just like a lot of people here want marijuana legalization and they don't agree that it's not legal, and they still do it anyway. There's people out there that do it. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not here to dictate to Russia what to do with their country because I am not Russian. If I became a citizen, then I could potentially do that. But Nick doesn't live in Russia. Nick doesn't have, like, what does Putin, as far as Nick goes, the only thing that Putin concerns with is like fighting NATO. And okay, that's it. Like, he doesn't have to agree with Putin. This is what it's not about, you having to love and have a Putin, like, like what is it? Like a Putin, like, I don't know, like a statue and like pray to it every night. Like you got
one of those, right?
It's not about that. No, it's like a Putin pillow, or though Misty does have a Putin throw, whatever.
You got a shirt that says "I heart Putin," so don't start. Like, you're in there too.
We started that way before this whole thing happened. Yeah. But anyway, so the thing is, you don't have to be in love with Putin. And like a lot of people who support what Russia's doing don't even like support 100% Putin, but they support what Russia's doing. So it's so reductive to say that if you don't agree with one thing Putin does, then you must be anti-Russian. There's a lot of people, the Communist Party of Russia doesn't agree with a lot of Putin's politics, but they're supporting Russia right now and they're pushing Putin to do certain things. The Communist Party of Russia, by the way, is far more socially conservative than what we would expect a communist party to be. But that's the Communist Party of Russia. Like the Communist Party of Cuba might be a little bit different. You know, it really just depends on the country, and we should allow these countries to decide for themselves, just like we should allow for individuals like Nick to decide what they believe in. And like, I'm not there with Russia on the LGBTQ. I think they could be more more liberal on it, more accepting. But at the same time, that's up to the Russian people. And guess what? The youth, I think they will lose young people if they don't start being more open. And you don't want to lose young people, because you lose young people, that's how the CIA gets in, that's how NATO gets in, that's how all of this gets in. And that might be an age thing, I don't know, but like, it is what it is.
Yeah, and to my the point, this is a point I made earlier in the show, and this is what I see them doing. By pretending wokeism drives imperialism instead of capitalist ideology, you're providing a shield for the conservative neocons in the Republican Party who has the same interest as Joe Biden. And these are the same people who pretend that Donald Trump is somehow less pro-war than the Democratic Party, even though Joe Biden essentially just carried on his policy. And the reason I put that last part there is because this whole conversation started because I called out Elon Musk and his bullshit, and Samira got mad. So you are a communist that is literally shielding and defending a billionaire imperialist, but she thinks she can be the gatekeeper for socialism. So that's playing the last line. If you want to go ahead, Pasta.
Elon Musk is literally an imperialist. That one? Or you want the next?
Yeah, the next one. Where order you guys gonna go? I don't know the order.
Here you go.
I was done with that part.
But
this guy said Putin is kicking the door in the entire vampiric oligarchical global system and represents Russia as an indispensable pillar of a new anti-imperialist paradigm in the world. If Putin's interest is not your own, then who do you serve? When I saw this tweet, I facepalmed so hard, guys. I don't have time to respond to all these people, but to answer that last question, I do not serve Putin. I am here to advocate only for my community. I said it earlier before. And you see, there were a few people that was saying stuff like this, like, "Oh my God, how dare you not agree with Putin's so-called anti-gay stance?" That's what they claim, right? So it's so. And then when I came in, I don't even take a lot of these people on Twitter seriously. I swear to God, a lot of them are ops because they're so dumb. There are a lot of them that are pretending me. I was not anti-imperialist just because I said Putin did not serve my interests. Anyway, it's so ridiculous, so dumb, and that's the kind of anti-intellectualism that you see people who promote wokeism, that where they fearmonger wokeism. That's what I mean. You see how anti-intellectual they are, right? With the arguments that they're using. But anyway, I also say here, my interests are advancing the needs of the working class in my community. How does Putin being anti-woke address that? That was the base of the conversation. And I said, this is something only privileged motherfuckers care about. And the reason why I say this, and this is why we continue to fight the woke mob, when I go around my life, guys, I have my brother, you guys probably see the box right there, who had to move in because he was evicted. He would have been homeless if I didn't give him a house. Do you think he's talking about wokeism? Right? I have an auntie who had her check garnished because she had medical debt, and my mom recently had to loan her money just so she can pay her get food. Do you think she is tweeting about wokeism?
Yeah.
You gotta know this stuff. People do it. Like, they're not poor people going around caring about this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's only the right bourgeoisie, people who have nothing else going on in their lives. I am not seeing in the black community, like, obviously it might be different in evangelical, white, social conservative circles, but among the black working class, among the Latino working class, there's a large Latino population here. I am not seeing this. I'm seeing it being force-fed to people, so they may talk about it because they see it on the news. But if the wokeism psyop wasn't so heavily pushed by the mainstream, no one would care about it. No one would. Not a lot of people don't do anyway. But anyway, Pastor, you have.
Well, look at this. He says breaking. What are your thoughts? Because we have Bill Bradley in the chat, and we also have this other tweet. He says breaking the imperialist stranglehold on humanity is a central precondition for a future for the working class. I thought you said you want to think in terms of imperialists versus anti-imperialists. You must be lost if you're attributing divergence in approach to privilege. And also, Bill Bradley said, he goes, if you are a Marxist, you should support the nations that are resisting imperialism. Fighting U.S. imperialism does, in fact, serve your interest.
This is why I strongly disagree. And sorry, Paz, but I just want to add this. Like, U.S. imperialism, we do not benefit from that. The bourgeoisie benefits from that. The military-industrial complex was caught polluting the Black community. The Navy just poisoned the water in indigenous Hawaii. You have resources that will otherwise go to our community being siphoned to the military-industrial complex. Fighting U.S. imperialism is 100% in our best interest because we do not benefit from U.S. imperialism. Only the capitalists and only the oligarchs do, right? But go ahead, Pops.
So you agree with Bill Bradley? Fighting. Okay,
did I not read it right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I read it wrong. My bad. Sorry, Bill. Yeah. I read your comment wrong. I thought you said fighting U.S. imperialism does not. Sorry, I don't know why I read that way. But yeah, I agree with you, Bill. Sorry, I agree with you.
It does, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's saying, is he saying that Nick's comment is like he's denying, he's not agreeing with Nick never said he's not agreeing with he's disagreeing with fighting U.S. imperialism, but that doesn't equate to having to agree to something that Putin said on LGBTQ issues. That's very reductive reasoning. So you can't, just because I agree with let's say I agree with Fidel Castro on like 95 or 98% of what he says, if there's one thing I don't agree with Fidel Castro on, that means I don't support communism. Like what kind of reductive reasoning is that? That's essentially what the whole thread is about. Them misunderstanding that just because that specific thing doesn't apply here, it means that you support U.S. imperialism. It's just very stupid, reductive reasoning. And for the sake of time, Nick, is there anything else you just want to get out of your chest right now? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, a lot to talk about. Just make sure you guys check me out on Revolutionary Blackout. That's all I really had to add. The reason why, and we're gonna continue to call this out because I think we're gonna lose the side hop. Everyone point out the obvious that woke has been hijacked, and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. And I agree, but your reality is based on your local relationships, the interactions that you have with people in your community, and what goes on in your life. So what I want, and what I want the RBN community, and I'm already starting to see a lot of change on this. I don't want us to be anti-intellectual. We're not taking the easy way out.
Too late. Yeah. Too late. So we got a bunch of people, anti-intellectuals, just acting off emotion in this country. They don't even use their head. They just use their heart.
Yeah.
So, but I hear you.
Their heart.
My goal is to drag as many people as I can away from that, and that's why we have articulated our opinion on this, and I strongly dislike the bastardization of Black culture that constantly goes around in white America, and we're not going to win this fight because we still have a relatively small platform. People like Ben Shapiro and the entire right got a giant media apparatus we can't convince, but the people in my community are gonna know. The people in my circle is gonna know the truth, and that's all we can really do. We can't like mourn over what we can't control, but what I can control, the people around me, trying to make them more intellectual, make them more compassionate, make them more aware of what's going on. That's the only thing we can do, and that's why we take the fights that we do. So thank you guys for having me on again.
Let me say this much too. I got you and Fee here and stuff like that. My personal opinion is that when you go and attack capitalism all the time, it just gets the other side to attack communism all the time. And we have to find a way to remove this language and just say, let's talk about what's right, what's wrong, what not. Because I know y'all are anti-capitalist, and it's kind of funny because like when me and Jimmy Dore were doing the panel with Dave Smith, the libertarian, and Clint Russell, they were like on before. It's like, so we're going to have this combination with these communists over here today, these socialists. And Clint would refer to us as his communists, joking around and whatnot and stuff. And we came on the show. We're like, we're here with a bunch of capitalists today and stuff. I just think that that's going to lead to what's going on, the fight. And I'm not advocating for communism. I'm not advocating for capitalism. I'm a mixed system guy. I believe it needs to be stripped down and the good parts taken and the bad parts left out. But that's just my advice to both of you two.
That lends itself to another argument.
Yeah, like I
Pasta.
said,
You guys got to recognize globalism. It's
yeah, like I
different than
said,
capitalism.
like I said
Sorry.
earlier,
It's not different. It's the
I
It is
think
same
you're
totally
thing.
half
different.
right.
Totally different.
Like I said earlier, I think you're half right on that. I think you just gotta know your audience. But when you have a megaphone and when you're not talking to someone directly, I think we gotta make clear about what we resist. But I do think you make some good points on that. We obviously got some disagreements, but
Well,
always
there's
good.
just- yeah, there is a global agenda. Whatever you want to stamp on it, you stamp on it. There are people who stamp communism on it, and I'm like, what do you guys don't even know what communism is? And there are people who stamp capitalism on it, and I just think it's just, it's like what Here Goes says. Pasta knows what's up. RBN. Nick is in the house. Thank you so much. Let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on, any new events, any new panels, anything fun and interesting that the people can go watch over at RBN, which was Fred Hampton Leftist. Remember, we had on Socialist MMA before those shows even started on the Convo Couch. Just remember that.
Yeah, and that's why I got a lot of appreciation for the Convo Couch and a lot of people in our community. A lot of people who had us on even before our platform started to grow. So much love to the Convo Couch. Make sure you gotta check us out. Nick and CJ usually we now doing every day at like 3 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna have Aaron Good on tomorrow. He's an amazing historian and analysis of foreign policy. So yeah, we upload every single day. Make sure you guys subscribe to Revolutionary Blackout. Also on Twitter at Socialist MMA. Much love to you guys, fam.
Yes, definitely. That's Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick is in the house. Fam, what do you got going on now before you get on out of here?
Well, I'm gonna be on the desk. We're gonna start at an hour earlier today. There's gonna be a live guest, so I have to get
Are
there.
they talking about FTX yet? Can somebody give me a call and let me speak? I've been watching these goddamn things. Can I get on RT, fam?
Fam, I don't know.
Fam, if they're going to speak about FTX, they should call me up. I've been following what's going on. I mean, obviously, there's some people who know a little bit more in finance, guys, but I got a pretty good idea about what's going on, fam. So tell them to give me a call and get it on up. Fam, just really quickly before you leave so I can thank people and you can thank them for us. On our PayPal, fam, we've had a little PayPal love come through. Deborah Wilson last week left a nice little chunk of change. Thank you so much, Deborah Wilson. We love you. I mentioned that you've been always Fee should bring pasta on. That's what Darren Levy's saying right there. I'm going to leave that up.
If I was in control of everything.
Ma'am, you are in control of everything.
Nice.
Everybody knows that Fee is the master of the universe. Christine Brown left some PayPal love, and Thomas Lubke. And thank you to Jilly Love. Thank you to Lucky Burrito over there watching the goddamn chats. Fam, get on out of here. We'll see you tonight. You can watch them on Rumble. You can watch it on Odyssey. You can watch it wherever RT is found. Thank you so much, fam. I'll see you later.
Bye, fam. Have a good show.
There goes fam. Fam is out. Fee should have me on. All right. Pasta is on Crosstalk. I was on 2 Crosstalk episodes. Yes, thank God for Peter Lavelle bringing me on. And guys, thank you to everybody in the chat hanging on out. There's a lot of people kind of working their way over here. Look, we have some love over on Rockfin. AREM. The Convo Couch rocks. Always in good company. Thank you so much. Thank you, AREM, for always showing the love. Thank you for all those people who are watching over on Rumble. I can see Pasta is so up, is so up himself. Thank you so much. I'm always happy. I'm always energetic. Vicky Lynn, thank you, my girl Vicky Lynn. Thank you, Fred Edward. We love you guys all hanging out. Nude Monk, put some clothes on. Ronnie, 132 also hanging out there on Rumble, guys. Fun facts. Lucky Burrito is in both chats. He's doing double work today. Guys, share it on out. Let's go get this out there. I got a little small section I want to get into real quick. Well, it wasn't meant to be small. It was meant to be big because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So we're just going to play it by ear, guys. As you know, FTX, the hearing, there was all this talk, right? There was this talk that Sam Bankman-Fried was asked to go. He wasn't subpoenaed. And then a lot of people came down on Maxine Waters for not subpoenaing him. And then we looked and we saw the old films of the Maxine Waters blowing him kisses. There's pictures of Sam Bankman-Fried. We saw the coddling of Sam Bankman-Fried after he had given over the company to John Ray, who presided over the bankruptcy of Enron and about a dozen other companies, who was then whisked off to Congress to give answers. So we have this whole hearing that they had the other day. Yesterday was the House. Today was the Senate. And I didn't listen to much on the Senate today. I listened to a little bit of Kevin O'Leary's opening speeches when he both sided everything. And, he should be in handcuffs as far as I'm concerned and questioned until what's going on. But that's hearsay. Also, there were a lot of other people that were going after crypto today. Elizabeth Warren. Oh my God. Elizabeth Warren was awful. We're going to play the Senate stuff tomorrow in the morning show. I'm going to put some stuff up. We'll talk about that today. Today, I want to concentrate on the House because 10 out of the 11 committee members had taken money from FTX. So this is like the whole internal revenue situation where the cops get to kind of like look at themselves and monitor their own behavior. They get to investigate themselves. That's what went on today on the floor because a lot of these people shouldn't have even been around. They should have been arrested. So let's get right into this. I'm going to start with this. So, as we know, and this is crazy, ladies and gentlemen, this was not by accident. This was not just bad timing. They did this on purpose. FTX, right? Samuel Bankman-Fried, the founder, is arrested in the Bahamas after U.S. files criminal charges. Now, the only thing is that they had sent out for this about a week ago. They could have had him in the courtroom today. They could have had him there testifying, but instead they waited until yesterday, hours before the hearing, for him to get arrested so he wouldn't have to go and testify because he hasn't had enough conversations with people out there who have told him what he can and cannot say. The ex-CEO of bankrupt crypto trading firm FTX was arrested in the Bahamas after the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York shared a sealed indictment with the Bahamian government. His arrest is the first concrete move by regulators to hold individuals accountable for multi-billion-dollar implosion of FTX last month. Okay, screw you. It's not the first move. They enabled him. Let's not forget that. Congress enabled him. Sam Bankman-Fried is expected to be extradited to the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, they also got his girlfriend. It looks like she was running around in New York. So it looks like they have her turning over. If you don't remember who his girlfriend was, and a lot of people have talked about this, is because this is a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where it wasn't really about crypto not being regulated and running away with things. This is about the United States government enabling him, using their connections to the SEC. If you don't know this, but the girlfriend of Samuel Bankman-Fried, her dad used to be the head of the SEC's boss. So we'll get into all that as it's coming over, and we'll talk about this. A lot of things to unpack, but that's what's happening. And you could see the people setting the table, right? So you have people like Nina Turner, and you're going to have people like Elizabeth Warren. You're going to have people like who are just going to, oh, crypto is bad. Here's what she says. Look, crypto is a scam. And I say, so is the Democratic Party. Crypto is a scam. So is the Democratic Party. But the whole mindset, this is what the shit libs are going to say now. They're going to say that crypto is a scam. There's people who are fighting for a what do you call it? A bank, a city bank, a local bank, a public bank. However, the public bank is still going to be tied to the Fed, is still going to be tied to Congress. And just because it's going to provide some avenues where you can hold your money, it's still going to be corrupt because you're still playing into the same system. This is my beef with the whole MMT situation, is that they just want to re-regulate and change the rules. Same players involved. They just want to get the Fed and the Congress to behave properly. No, that's not going to happen. That's why a system like Bitcoin was always endearing to me, because they have their own ecosystem. And when you do that, there's a lot of things you can do. It's not controlled by anybody. But let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. I have it right here. I'm going to pull it up right now. Our sister Maxine. Let me just get it ready, guys. Sorry. 2 seconds. Do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Convo Couch is here today, ladies and gentlemen, going over the FTX hearing, guys. I'm going to mute myself up, and I'm going to bring this in. I think it's very important that we talk about Nancy Pelosi. Okay. Excuse me, Maxine Waters' opening statement, because this is going to be the person who's going to be on the TV screens, who's going to be talking about everything, who's going to be setting the narrative. It's going to be her. So check it out.
The committee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the committee at any time. This hearing is entitled Investigating the Collapse of FTX, Part 1. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes to give an opening statement. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. John Ray III, who has been appointed CEO of FTX to oversee its bankruptcy, to testify before our committee for the first part of our investigation into the fall of FTX. I am hopeful that the arrest of Mr. Bankman-Fried, the founder and former CEO of FTX, means he will be held accountable for the fraud he has committed and the harm he has caused. He was scheduled to testify under oath before this committee today. Unfortunately, the timing of his arrest denies the public the opportunity to get the answers they deserve. Rest assured that this committee will not stop until we uncover the full truth behind the collapse of FTX. Just a few months ago, FTX was one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, with a valuation of $32 billion in just 3 years since its founding.
I got to say right off the bat, right? I got to say, like, and I hit the bell, right? When you hit the buzzwords, a little points and narratives. How do you guys like the change of attitude from blowing kisses, taking shots with him? Sam, I hope you come to the thing. Oh yeah, it's not off the table. Like, you know, all this love and not for nothing. Like I said, 10 out of 11 of the committee members got money from him. Maxine Waters is chairing this hearing. She took donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. She was part of the whole congressional hearings that had once allowed him to dupe the people and just bypass all the regulations that the SEC normally has in place to get their own little lift up, to have FTX become an exchange and even start without any proper liquidity, without the checks and balances. She was part of that whole thing. And now she's changed her attitude completely. A lot of people think it's because Sam Bankman-Fried, Caroline, is now in custody. She was seen in New York the other day. But let's play the rest of it. It's just the change of attitude and energy is so just, it's laughable, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, hit the share button, Convo Couch.
Today, FTX is bankrupt and possibly looted. FTX misused an approximately $10 billion in customer funds and owes creditors at least $3 billion. Today, as many as 1 million people, many of whom are here in the United States, are locked out of their FTX accounts.
She's struggling a lot in this. Yeah, they are locked out of their accounts. You know who's not locked out of the accounts? You know who did the looting? You and your cronies. Can you imagine this? They're investigating themselves over here. About 60% of the people sitting, the congressional members, got money, probably that are in the audience, because the other ones who just wouldn't even sit there, you know what I'm saying, that are in there in the hearing. You got 10 out of 11 committee members who got money. You did the looting. You. And the people got locked out, but it gets juicier. This is what I said earlier today. Hey, guys, AOC did something good, finally, and we're going to go into it. This is all kabuki theater. You are right, Jilly Love. This is beyond fake. Here it is. It is fake. It is fake. Some people should be behind bars, not having a hearing on to find out what happened. You had your little sham hearing when you did the freaking Wall Street bets thing. We all remember that. Nobody paid a price. Let's listen more to this horse shit as she's struggling. And then these are the leaders of our country now.
And may recover only a fraction of their hard-earned investments, if any at all. But this failure is not just noteworthy for its size, but for the company's total disregard for standard business practices, governance, risk management, and criminal conduct. Mr. Ray, who also oversaw one of the largest corporate bankruptcies in United States history, Enron, declared that he had never in his career seen such, and I quote, complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here, end of quote. I'm so deeply troubled to learn how common it was for Bankman-Fried and FTX employees to steal from the cookie jar of customer funds to finance their lavish lifestyles.
They didn't do it just to finance their lavish lifestyles, lady. They did it to finance your war in Ukraine, to finance your campaigns. All you and your cronies, you guys got some of that money from the cookie jar. So stop it already. We know you got it. I mean, how did these people come out with a straight face and say this shit? They used it to finance you. That's why you pushed it through the SEC with all their connections, allowed them to even exist. And we'll show you even more that this was a Ponzi scam from the get-go. And all these people received money. Why haven't they given back their money? There's more.
Today, this committee will dig deeper into Mr. Ray's findings with the hopes of piecing together the events that led to the collapse of FTX and the subsequent harm to millions of customers who put their trust in the platform. We will also look at FTX's deep ties with Alameda, a crypto hedge fund predominantly owned by Bankman-Fried that gambled away billions of dollars in customer assets that were inappropriately transferred from FTX. And importantly, we will hear how Mr. Ray and his team are trying to recover funds for customers by piecing together Bankman-Fried's broken record keeping and by identifying potentially unlawful transfers to himself as well as his friends and family. Under my leadership over the past 4 years, this committee has closely focused on the growth and popularity of crypto precisely because of the many concerns that the failure of FTX has highlighted. Last year, I created a digital assets working group comprised of Democratic members of the committee with the goal of learning more about the underlying technologies, applications for finance, and the risk they pose to customers, consumers, and the economy. When the President's Working Group on Financial Markets urged Congress to safeguard the economy from stablecoin risk, I and Ranking Member McHenry jumped into action and continued to work on a bill with the members of this committee. The ongoing failures of crypto firms like Terra USD, Celsius, BlockFi, and most significantly, FTX and Alameda Research only.
Don't you love the way she just brags about herself? Me and Mr. McHenry, my co-chair, we jumped into action when we heard all this come out. You jumped into action to get your beak wet, to get your own money. You didn't do shit. You don't even know what you're talking about. And I want to show you this too as well, that half the members of this Congress don't even know what freaking a blockchain is. And these are the people making laws. But we have to take a second out there and just hold on. I wish I had an applause. I mean, hoo-ha. Let me give you a hoo-ha, the way you just jumped in there, Maxine Waters, Sister Maxine, who doesn't even live in her district that she freaking governs over. What a waste, man.
Serves to strengthen the importance for Congress and the public to understand the harm caused to customers, what laws have been broken or flaunted, and how Congress and the regulators can prevent this from happening again. I want to say that I'm pleased that the committee's efforts have pushed enforcement agencies across the country to take greater action against bad actors who misuse customers' funds. I also applaud the SEC for authorizing separate charges relating to Mr. Bankman-Fried, and I look forward to additional actions to hold him accountable and make customers more whole again. I yield back.
That was code, boys and girls, for more regulations, right? Let's think about what this is about. You think this was a setup? You think it was real? You think it was accident? You think that Samuel Bankman-Fried was just a lone actor, the way Netflix said that Epstein was a lone actor? Who freaking runs that company, right? Obama's got some shares over there. But, I mean, this is what they're saying. They're telling you, plain and simple, that this is about crypto, and that's why people got stolen from them, because there's no regulations. Now we're going to regulate the shit out of it. This isn't about crypto. This isn't about regulations. This is about them just stealing. And I got John Ray, right? Okay, who handled the whole case as far as Enron was concerned. When he deals with bankruptcies, he's done about a dozen companies. So when he described Enron and he talked about it, is Enron was a very sneaky little thing. Like, they cooked the books is what they said. They were very sophisticated to make sure that certain things weren't ending up on spreadsheets and money, whatnot. That's not the case with Samuel Bankman-Fried. Let's listen first to John Ray talk about, hold on, let me get it up properly. I think this is it. All right, this is it here. Let's listen to John Ray. Now, John Ray is now the new CEO of the company. They handed it over to him. I'm still not sure who does it, whether the Congress has to approve who, but he came in to handle the bankruptcy. Now, he's there for one reason. He's going to give answers on what's going on. So he's gone through everything. He's gotten caught up, and now they can ask him questions on what happened in the past and how they got and ended up in this place. So he's going to tell you what's going on. Now, Alameda, which was a hedge fund that was owned by Samuel Bankman-Fried, was questioning into the day up until he got arrested about he doesn't think that money went back and forth with Alameda and FTX. Bullshit. They were taking money from FTX and sending it right into Alameda so they can play frigging gambling. They can go to the casino, the World Casino, and bet it on up and also freaking embezzle money to their friends. Let's listen to Mr. Ray on what he has to say as far as what he found out and everything involved.
Many questions remain. We know the following. First, customer assets at FTX.com were commingled with assets from the Alameda trading platform. That much is clear. Second, Alameda used client funds to engage in margin trading, which exposed customer funds to massive losses. Third, the FTX group went on a spending binge in 2021 and 2022, during which $5 billion was spent on a myriad of businesses and investments, many of which may only be worth a fraction of what was paid for them. Fourth, loans and other payments were made to insiders in excess of $1.5 billion. Fifth, Alameda's business model as a market maker required funds to be deployed to various third-party exchanges, which were inherently unsafe and further exacerbated by the limited protections offered in certain of those foreign jurisdictions. I know that resolution of the Chapter 11 process, as well as the investigation into the cause of the FTX Group's collapse, are of keen interest to this committee and to your constituents. Although, there are many who need and deserve answers. There's customers, there's creditors, there's investors, counterparties, employees, and regulators.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, third parties and other people, they were giving kickbacks. This was a whole scam. In the United States Congress, the majority of these jerk-offs were involved, and they should be marched on out of the Congress, put into a garbage pail like they did in Iceland, and then taken off to the jail. I mean, they're involved. So many people that are sitting in that audience are involved in this whole scam. And, we got some answers from Mr. Ray that all of a sudden that we understood that a lot of the money from Alameda, which was his other company, which was a hedge fund, which shouldn't have been taking money directly from FTX, was doing so. He'd been denying it the whole time. But this isn't a complicated thing, okay? This is a straight-up thievery. Here he is, again, John Ray. Let me a little bit more. This is the Ray segment of the video, but check it out what he says right over here. It's old-fashioned embezzlement. Just straight up, just take the money, no checks and balances, and go shop.
Enron was is a really a different company. Was the crimes that were committed there were highly orchestrated financial machinations by highly sophisticated people to keep transactions off balance sheets. This is really old-fashioned and embezzlement. This is just taking money from customers and using it for your own purpose. Not sophisticated at all. Sophisticated perhaps in the way they were able to sort of hide it from people, frankly, right in front of their eyes. But this isn't sophisticated whatsoever. This is just plain old embezzlement.
Old school.
Old school.
There you go.
Old school. Just chuck them up, get them in there, take their money, and roll. So that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that he laid out everything. He kind of explained what was going on. So yeah, that was that. Now listen, I want to dive into some of the stuff inside the hearing. we spend a lot of time on this show sometimes bagging on AOC, saying that, AOC, she's the fraud squad and whatnot. But when she does something well, I want to point it out. If you guys can remember, if you watched the show, if you watched Combo Couch, if you watched the AM Wake Up Show, if you watch Steve's show, if you watch any of our shows, you know what I'm saying, you'll know that we've said this from the get-go, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are people who got their money out, that got tipped off. There are people on the inside. We're going to find out everything, right? Eventually down the road, people can't shut their mouths and it's going to come on out. Well, there were two people yesterday who pointed out there's something creepy going on, and it was written in the papers today because they had to get on it. Now, I don't know if it was planned or whatnot, but take a look at it. It was actually in the paper today, the two things I pointed out. This is AOC. Now, AOC didn't take a position as far as bagging on crypto or supporting crypto. She just laid out a timeline, but she also laid out something very nefarious that happened in that timeline. And that is, some people got their money out. Some of the privileged people got their money out. Let's take a listen to AOC and what she has to say on the floor as she presents a timeline. But listen closely as we get deep into this, what she says about the timeline. Here we are.
Possible. I want to put together a little bit of a timeline of this collapse between November 12th and yesterday. On November 2nd, we have CoinDesk leaking these balance sheets. On the 8th, Binance signs a non-binding letter to acquire FTX, and Bankman-Fried freezes or pauses withdrawals from FTX. I would like to submit to the record your declaration to the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, or FTX's declaration to the U.S. Bankruptcy Court that was filed yesterday. Now, on November 9th, the day after those assets were frozen, Binance announced it would not go through with the purchase. And according to this filing, the same day, Bankman-Fried emailed the Bahamian Attorney General with an offer. That offer stated that he would offer to unfreeze withdrawals just for Bahamian customers on FTX, quote, so they can tomorrow fully withdraw all their assets. Correct. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, on November 10th, FTX DM, the next day, was placed into a foreign provisional liquidation in the Bahamas, correct?
Correct.
The next morning. Now, after that, Bankman-Fried then made good on his offer, on his previous day's offer in that email to the Bahamian AG, opening withdrawals just in the Bahamas for a period of 25.5 hours. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, during that period, $100 million was withdrawn in the Bahamas from FTX by 1,500 individuals, correct?
Correct.
And this was the day before you were set to take over. So he was still in control. This was like right before he was supposed to hand this off. Now, I think what we have here is that, or rather afterwards, on November 12th, we have what Congresswoman Dean was just asking about with this additional minting, these questions around this additional minting. And then on November 16th,
That's the most important part of what she says right there. This is something that we have talked about. On the night before that, Samuel Bankman-Fried is supposed to hand over FTX completely to John Ray, who is supposed to handle the bankruptcy. He makes a deal with the Bahamian Attorney General to unlock the accounts, and then 1,500 people take out over $100 million. Now, if each person was able to do, 1,500 people were able to do that, right? Like, or 1,500 accounts. It could be people with multiple accounts. We don't know that. That would be about $66,000 per person, if you do the math. But we have to assume that it was a person who had multiple accounts, taking multiple monies. This was the privileged people. I mean, AOC, hold on. Guys, come on. Give a round of applause because she actually did something good here. She laid out a timeline and she also laid out a tactic which was used. And this is why we need SBF there. And who did you make a deal with? And who did you wink at to trigger to go get their money? Not everybody, not all the American citizens and all the Joe Schmoes. This was a deal with somebody in the Bahamas. And if somebody in the Bahamas holding money, it's ain't no like just little Joe Schmo. This is some people over here who were able to get winked and let know that to go get their money. This is some corrupt shit. And I just want to say good job to AOC for pointing it out. Now, while we're here, let me get to this next part because this is something I've been saying, like, and I'm going to get to it right here. I got it right about, oh, hold on. 326. All right. I think I got it right here. Let me bring this back up because another question we need to ask is how many Joe Schmoes lost money in this whole situation, right? Like we've been talking about, there are people I want to talk to who lost money in FTX. How many regular people lost money? Well, here's Congresswoman Garcia, and she asked the question, not Chewy Garcia. We'll get into him in a second. But this is Congresswoman Garcia asking how many normal people lost money.
Was put together before FTX US.
Yes,
So before FTX US, US customers didn't have a forum or a platform to participate in because, as I understand it, FTX International was for non-USA customers.
that's correct.
So do you happen to know how many FTX US customers there really is?
We don't have an accurate customer count. We do have a user number, which is about 2.7 million. But customers did have multiple accounts, and some of those accounts have zero balances.
So
We need to get to the bottom of
2.7
it.
million.
Right.
We were told I saw some information that said that it was about, I think it was 2% of the total picture of FTX customers. Is that about?
Yeah, I don't know how they're calculating that. I mean, on a relative basis, though, the US number of US users and the value at the petition date, is relatively small compared to .com.
Well, I've been curious to find out, and I've asked this question of the White House Working Group and another number of people that have appeared before us just about this whole crypto space. Who is the consumer here? Who are the people being harmed? I'm not talking about hedge fund managers. I'm not talking about investors. I'm not talking about entities. How many real people are being hurt?
Well, we haven't, we don't have a breakdown by, say, institution versus individual. Clearly, there's a lot of individuals harmed by this, a lot of individual accounts. Crypto accounts are certainly something that, it's available to consumers. So I would expect the population will include a large amount of consumers.
So when you say that, are you telling me you have no consumer data, you just have account numbers right now?
We have account numbers. We can ultimately, figure out the names associated with those accounts. What we don't know, of course, necessarily is, what the identity necessarily is behind some of those account names.
So you don't have any information on their demographics or states? You can't tell me if I
Not
have
at-
any
not at
from
my
my
fi-
district?
Not at
Or
my
you can't
fingers.
tell Mr. Agricolas if there's any from his district?
Not at my fingertips. We certainly can accumulate that and break that down.
Well,
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. They don't have the number. They don't know how many people got screwed. Institutions versus individuals. This is one of the things I wanted to kind of point out because at the end of the day, a lot of people got screwed and their shit's turned off and they're not getting their money back. You know what I'm saying? That was some of the testimony I wanted to put up. There's somebody else I want to put up right now too as well because I thought that this testimony right here was some of the best testimony. Let me see if I can move it just perfectly right there. Okay. No. Hold on, guys. My bad. So, Congressman Timmons comes up next. He's next up on the dock. And he's going to echo also not only what AOC said, because that's something important. They somehow had 25.5 hours in which they opened up the floodgates for people in Bahamas only to recuperate $100 million. That's suspect. We've said this before on the shows that people are going to get their money out. They're going to know. And those are going to be the privileged ones, the ones who are given assurances that if anything goes wrong, they'll be saved, or just officials that are part of this whole scam that are getting the money off as well. But nobody really questioned the fact that Samuel Bankman-Fried got arrested at weird timing. And who made that happen? He was specifically arrested so he wouldn't come and have to testify. I think everybody knows that. I think everybody understands that. But let's listen to Congressman Timmons. He's got a lot of great things to say as well.
Trial was from January 30th, 2006 until May 25th, 2006. Pretty lengthy trial. I imagine that the federal prosecutors presented ample evidence. There were all kind of witnesses. Would it have been helpful to have the defendant testify before Congress for like 6 hours and answer a whole bunch of questions under oath prior to that trial? Would that have been helpful to federal prosecutors?
Well, by that time, the company had been confirmed out of bankruptcy. We had
Before he was arrested, would it have been helpful for him to come before Congress and testify for hours on end and answer every question that we could come up with?
Oh,
under
absolutely,
oath?
absolutely. Yeah.
So it would have been really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay. So why 36 hours before he was scheduled to testify before this committee for hours on end, did the Southern District of New York send a provisional arrest warrant to the Bohemian government to facilitate his arrest, to preclude his testimony, which would have been incredibly helpful in the prosecution of Sam Bankman-Fried?
I mean, I obviously can't speak for the agency.
It's kind of bizarre. I mean, I was a prosecutor for a number of years. I prosecuted complex white-collar cases. The thought of getting 6 hours of congressional grilling for a target of investigation or a defendant, that would be great for my case. So I just don't understand. I guess the grand jury returned the indictment on the 9th. Technically, you can delay weeks if you want to. So this was a decision made by somebody at DOJ to prevent Sam Bankman-Fried from coming here in a couple hours and testifying before Congress, answering questions in front of the American people. I've read his alleged testimony that he was going to give. He's basically saying that he lacks the criminal intent. He lacks mens rea. He's saying that his attorneys pressured him into filing Chapter 11, that he immediately, after doing a DocuSign to sign away everything, said, I don't want to do that, told his attorneys, again, this is all what he says, told his attorneys that undo it, I do not want to do that. And it seems that he's been taking steps ever since that to try to wrangle control of his companies back. Is that fair to say?
You know, I can only read what you read in the press. I haven't talked to Mr. Fried.
So
Something interesting that's been being brought up lately, too, as well, is that the way this was filed and the way things have gone on is that he tried to do a foreign liquidation situation, and that's why he's trying to get back the company himself to continue it on. He's literally trying to weasel out of this and try to recuperate and start all over again. There's a lot of people talking about the way he's filed things, and I don't understand the nuances of that, and I'm going to have people explain it to me. The way that the liquidation and the bankruptcy was filed through Bahamian officials and Bahamian government. So there's a lot of things to understand there that I'm still trying to grasp. But it seems that he's had like so little pressures and so little people, trying to hold him accountable up until recently that he's going to really try to wrangle it back. And I think it was great the way that Congressman Timmons said that there are friends. He's got a friend at the DOJ. They could have done this. They had the capability on the 9th to go grab him and bring him back. It's now the 14th, and he's still not here. But they waited, and it seemed like it was very timely because they are a part of this whole bullshit. This is about the deep state and deep entities to make sure that they get their wars, to make sure that they get their control. And, at the end of the day, too, as well, we have to understand that a lot of the finances that went through FTX also helped fund the bio labs in the Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot of shady shit going on. So you're going to have some rogue or some people who are going to speak out at these hearings. Let's listen to the rest of Congressman Timmons, and then we'll get on to some of the crypto advocates and the people who are against crypto who've used this whole hearing as a way of just going after crypto because they don't like it.
my friend from Wisconsin was talking about Chapter 15 versus Chapter 11. And that's basically the Bohemian government or outside, what do they call it? Joint provisional liquidators are trying to wrangle control of this bankruptcy. Is that fair to say?
It seems that way, yes.
And arguably, you're going to be going after the $100 million that was allowed by 1,500 Bahamian citizens to take out that was allegedly owed. You're still going to get to the bottom of that. So you plan on going after that money, correct?
We'll investigate every potential cause of action.
And if 1,500 people in the Bahamas were allowed 25 and a half hours to withdraw $100 million, do you plan on trying to get that back and distribute it appropriately?
We will certainly pursue every course of action to recover.
Okay.
On record, are you going to go after that money? Are you going to get that? That's some shady shit, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't know that. And we've been talking about, like, look, we don't know who the privileged people are. We don't know what Kevin O'Leary's position is. I'm surely fucking skeptical of it. That guy never does he never makes a deal on Shark Tank, but yet he goes and does business with Samuel Bankman-Fried, who's got red flags all over the fucking place that you got to be like, hold on a second. This guy's doesn't have the liquidity. They got connections in the SEC. So there's so many questions there, and I'm very, very thankful for Congressman Timmons who brought that to the table. Now, I want to get on to some of the people who are just using this whole situation to go after crypto. That's what this is about. There's a lot of people who want the monetary system to never be challenged by any outside forces. There's anti-crypto people. There are people who are in bed for the monetary system, and they're going to just try to use this to crush crypto across the board. Samuel Bankman-Fried was able to do this because there's no regulations. We need to regulate crypto. We need to crush it, whatnot. So here's Chewy Garcia from the Chicago area, and man, this really burns my ass. But listen to the way he uses this whole situation to paint a picture, and that's what freaking Elizabeth Warren did today too as well. Check it out.
Minutes.
Thank you, Chair Waters and Ranking Member McHenry, for hosting this important hearing. And thank you, Mr. John Ray, for joining us today. I want to start by zooming out a bit because FTX isn't an anomaly. It's a collapse. Isn't just a case of one corrupt guy stealing money. It's about an entire industry that refuses to comply with existing regulation that thinks it's above the law. It is not. As we speak, Binance is being investigated by the Department of Justice. Tether is being investigated by DOJ as well. The SEC is investigating the co-founder of Terra Luna, which collapsed earlier this year, and Digital Currency Group has many of the same conflicts of interest present in the FTX case. The crypto industry is in crisis because crypto assets have no inherent value. These companies are making money using one thing: hype. And when the hype runs out, these businesses fail, and ordinary investors, especially latecomers who are disproportionately low-income, Black and Latino, lose. Mr. Ray, in your November 17th filing, you noted that your team...
I don't know how much more of the fucking shit I want to hear from Chewy Garcia. But you can understand what he was doing. And then he even used it's Black and Latino people. He even used identity politics to prove his fucking point. I mean, Jesus Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, thank you for bearing with us today. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Convo Couch here. I'm here. Pasta Jardula Fiorella got called in on assignment. She's going to work a little bit earlier, and she had to bail on out. So I am just handling the hearing that happened and took place in the House yesterday. Today, the hearing was in the Senate. We will go over a little bit of that and a little bit more. I'm going to finish up today with a pro-crypto person. There are some crypto people inside Congress, some Bitcoiners, in fact, as well, who understand, even some people with amongst themselves, they understand the difference between centralization and decentralization. So a lot of people in the Congress don't understand what's going on. I'm going to show a couple clips at the end, and we'll talk about Maxine Waters and what happened at the end. But I want to get to Thomas Emmer now, because this guy is lit. This is Representative Tom Emmer. And let me bring up his tweet, and they get a little clip of him going on, because he points out something that's really important. Where is the SEC on this? The SEC should be answering questions. So here he says, watching the FTX hearing and loving some truth bombs from Representative Tom Emmer. He's not afraid of going after the SEC's Gary Gensler, who Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend, her father was Gary Gensler's boss at one point. I said that right. Gary Gensler's boss was Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend at one point. So there's a lot of connections here, and there's a lot of talk of what happened in the SEC. And seriously, why wasn't Gary Gensler taken to this hearing and brought before them and asked and subpoenaed and talked and questioned? Why did you okay Samuel Bankman-Fried's FTX to get approved when they didn't meet all the credentials that all these other businesses have to meet? Proof that we should care about issues that affect us more than which side of the aisle politicians are on. So let's check out Representative Tom. Here it is.
But Chair Gensler refuses to answer our questions or testify before this committee. Will you commit to sharing with this committee any internal documents you come across regarding communication between FTX and Mr. Gensler or others at the SEC?
We'll fully cooperate.
Mr. Ray, I appreciate you mentioning your concerns in the beginning of my questioning about the concentration of power in a small group of individuals with no oversight. That is the exact problem that open and permissionless technology like crypto and blockchain solve. It solves for the problems of centralization. You stated in your testimony that you've never seen such a, quote, utter failure of corporate controls at every level of an organization, from the lack of financial statements to a complete failure of any internal controls or governance whatsoever, close quote. FTX had disastrous or even non-existent systems for accounting, audit, cash management, cybersecurity, human resources, risk management, and other unacceptable management practices that currently make your job to uncover the facts quite difficult. Fortunately, the immutable characteristics of public blockchains that some people would care not to understand in this committee allowed the crypto community to reveal Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud, and the on-chain public record will assist law enforcement moving forward. I encourage my colleagues to understand Sam Bankman-Fried's con for what it is: a failure of centralization, a failure of business ethics, and a crime. It is not a failure of technology. I've worked across the aisle since I came to Congress, so the future of crypto reflects American values, the same way the internet does today. For the most engaged members of Congress on crypto policy, the FTX collapse reminds us of why we care so deeply about this technology. Decentralization is the point. Thank you, and I yield back.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. He fought for it. He wants to know what's going on with Gensler. Listen, I'm going to pull this up really quickly, ladies and gentlemen, because I have a little chart here, a little fun little chart in which you can see what's going on exactly. Representative Tom Emmer is one of those guys who was kind of pointing out the problems. The fact is, it's not that it's crypto. It's not the fact that there's not enough regulations. The fact is decentralization and allowing these unethical practices to take place because, frankly, you were a part of the whole situation because you benefited from it whatsoever. As well, excuse me. So let me just show you really quickly. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the stuff that we were talking about, the connections. Let me make it bigger. There we go. See if I can do that here really quick. Okay. So here's the little chart. Sam Bankman-Fried, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, right? Former professor at MIT. Glenn Ellison, professor of economics at MIT, former boss of Gary Gensler. That's the SEC, the guy who approved Sam Bankman-Fried. That happens to be Caroline Ellison's, the CEO of Alameda, and she dated Samuel Bankman-Fried, the daughter of Glenn Ellison, who's now in New York, ladies and gentlemen. She's now in New York. She's turning states. It's over. It's done with. That is that. I got to put this in here really quick, guys. Give me 2 seconds because there are certain things that people are talking about. Let me see if I think I might have it on my Twitter really quick. If you guys didn't hear yesterday that Maxine Waters tried to end the hearing pretty early yesterday, right? You know what? I have it on the YouTube. So let me just go to the YouTube really quick and I'll grab it because I think I do have it. No, I don't. She tried to end the thing early yesterday and she tried to stop the whole hearing from taking place. let me just really quickly, guys, give me 2 seconds and I will find it. Guys, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, help us out. Convo Couch is here. I'm going to just type in Maxine Waters. Let me do this really quick. Sorry, guys. And you can do this at home. I don't know if you guys heard about the Maxine Waters trying to end the. Here we go. Let me get it really quickly. Okay, here it is. I got it. All right, I got it, guys. So two seconds, and I'm going to provide a little context for this. So everybody's kind of looking at this whole situation, going, Maxine got schooled, she got clowned, but there's reasons behind it, and I'm going to show it. And pretty much the tweet says, let me bring this on up here. Hold on a second. I'll bring this up. So the tweet says, LOMOF, my ass off. Representative Maxine Waters tried to end the FTX hearing before Representative Lance Gooden got a chance to question the witnesses, who had to remind her that all the members of the committee are entitled to questions. So this is typical Maxine Waters behavior, but there's a rhyme and reason behind it, guys. I'm going to mute myself up, put this on up. Maxine Waters trying to end it early.
Record the closing statements from Ranking Member McHenry and myself. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. John Ray III.
Chairwoman
for your
Waters.
presence here today.
Chairwoman Waters, I've not had an opportunity to testify or to question the witness.
I'd like to thank you for your presence.
Chairwoman Waters,
And for the,
parliamentary inquiry.
yes.
Are all members entitled to question witnesses?
You are, and if you would like to miss the votes on the floor for everybody.
Hey, it's
just
the
one
chairwoman's
moment.
prerogative to call a
Just
recess.
1 moment, please.
That's your decision, not mine.
Just 1 moment, please. You may go right ahead and have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're certainly welcome, sir. Record the closing statements from Ranking Member McHenry and myself. And I'd like to thank.
Okay. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. She stopped it and he yelled at her back. And people are like, what the hell's going on? You're certainly welcome, sir. But there's a reason to it, guys. And I'm going to pull it up right now because there's something that he mentioned. I can't do that. Excuse me 1 second. And a lot of people aren't talking about it. A lot of people aren't questioning it. And I'm going to bring it up right now, and we're going to mention it, and then we're going to be able to talk a little bit more on it as we get more in touch with Amber King, who's been kind of on top of this. Let's bring this up here because let's see what they were trying to hide, ladies and gentlemen, because they are trying to hide something. This is more than just Maxine Waters being all frustrated about what went on. This is something a little bit more. This is about the bank, this small, little quiet bank that somehow was able to get themselves up to do and get the clearance to do some business with Samuel Bankman-Fried. Take a look.
Thank you for your presence.
Chairwoman Waters,
And for the,
parliamentary inquiry.
yes.
Are all members entitled to question witnesses?
You are, and if you would like to miss the votes on the floor for
Hey,
everybody.
it's
just
the
1
chairwoman's
moment.
prerogative to call a
Just
recess.
1 moment, please.
That's your decision, not mine.
Just 1 moment, please. You may go right ahead and have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're certainly welcome, sir.
Mr. Ray, earlier today you said FTX was one of the worst bankruptcies you have handled in your 40 years of legal and restructuring experience. Under Mr. Bankman-Fried, FTX had almost no record keeping, risk management, or accounting. In fact, FTX had 0 accountants on their payroll. Mr. Bankman-Fried explained to Bloomberg Businessweek that FTX's accounting was done by him, and in his head, quote, "I was real lazy about the mental math. The complete lack of any basic record keeping makes it difficult to track down assets and untangle this mess. Are you aware of any additional wallets the co-founders potentially have access to that contain debtor assets?"
No, we're not.
There's also been very little attention to the banks that FTX had a relationship with. I don't know that I've heard about any questions today, but the ties between FTX and Farmington State Bank began in March when Alameda Research invested $11.5 million in the bank's parent company, FBH. Do you have any insight or additional information as to why a small agricultural lending bank with really no footprint in fintech or crypto has a relationship with FTX?
No, that's subject of our inquiry. I mean, we do know, obviously, we made that investment.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You've also stated that Alameda's business model as a market maker required deploying funds to various third-party exchanges, which were inherently unsafe and further exacerbated by the limited protections offered in certain foreign jurisdictions. To your knowledge, are any of the FTX co-founder or their family members affiliated with third-party exchanges that received funds from Alameda?
We're certainly investigating that. It's going to take some time to dig.
Mental math. The complete lack of any basic record keeping makes it difficult to track down assets and untangle this mess. Are you aware of any additional wallets the co-founders potentially have access to that contain debtor assets?
No, we're not.
There's also been very little attention to the banks that FTX had a relationship with. I don't know that I've heard about any questions today, but the ties between FTX and Farmington State Bank began in March when Alameda Research invested $11.5 million in the bank's parent company, FBH. Do you have any insight or additional information as to why a small agricultural lending bank with really no footprint in fintech or crypto has a relationship with FTX?
No, that's subject of our inquiry.
No, we don't know who this little small bank is, this little agricultural bank with some strong ties seem to have gotten the power and the ability and all this money donated to an agricultural bank. A bunch of crypto hedge funds donated to this agricultural bank. We should look into that. Thank you, Mr. Gooden. And maybe, ladies and gentlemen, maybe there's a reason why Maxine Waters didn't want him to speak.
Hooah!
And that was because they knew that maybe she knew that they were talking about this bank and she didn't want Gooden to speak. Now, I also want to point out, while we got this up over here as well, too, is the lack of knowledge. And I'm not going to spend all day on it. I'm going to wrap this show up really quickly. But the lack of knowledge that the Congress has on cryptocurrencies. They don't know what the hell is going on. So we're going to use Congressman Vargas as an example. Juan Vargas, ladies and gentlemen, your Congress. Take a look.
I don't get the point. I really don't get the point of blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's like keeping track of how many times you chew gum. Like, who cares? I don't get the point. I really don't get the point of blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's like keeping track of how many times you chew gum. Like, who cares?
Guys, I'm so sorry I was speaking the whole time. No sound. That was me. All right. See, thank God. I think it was 30 seconds there, maybe a minute, but thank you guys. If you haven't checked out the rest of the show, please go and do so. It's up on Rockfin. It's up on Rumble. Go ahead and check it out. We went over 2 minutes. My butt, LW. Stop, Saul. You guys are getting on. Hey, you guys are getting on my case. We love you guys. But anyways, thank you so much, Bill Bradley, everybody else in the house. Thank you to everybody who left a few bucks today. Oh, somebody made a comment on Rumble. Let's go over and check it out. We have a Rumble rant. Holy shit, you're muted. Vicky Lynn. She gave me $1 to let me know I was muted. Vicky Lynn, we love you. Thank you so much and we love everybody else. Fun stuff, Pasta. Thank you so much. I agree. It was just it was just a fun show today. I agree with everything that Pasta just said. That's because I was muted. That's why he agrees. Thanks a lot, pal. But anyways, that's it for today, guys. Come on, check us out. Convo Couch. Thank you to all the PayPal people. We got all that love. Thank you to all our Rockfin supporters. $14.99 a month. Get you a prescription. They're going to watch premium over there. We will never put everything behind the paywall. You can always watch it on Rumble for free across the board, just in case it's a subject we can't talk on YouTube about when it comes to elections, when it comes about COVID. We talk about it all on Rumble. That's our next free speech platform. So I want to say thank you to everybody out there who made this possible. Thank you to Fee. Go check her out. Get on Rumble. Go to RT Live. She will be there later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for the Convo Couch. We'll see you soon.